Warning, the following podcast contains adult language, themes, and situations. Also, the film we're about to talk about is going to be spoiled thoroughly. Listener discretion is advised. Enjoy this show.
In 2005, the man who brought us Gattaca and The Truman Show teamed up with Nicolas Cage to shine a light on the shady underbelly of illegal arms trafficking, and produced a film that's just as relevant now as it was back then. So break out your Kalashnikovs and pour a few lines of cocaine and gunpowder as we break down one of my all-time favorite Nicolas Cage films, Lord of War.
Okay, let's run.
I'm like a prickly pear.
What do you say we cut the chit-chat? A-hole! Porker! How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned?
Hey, have you ever been dragged to the sidewalk and beat until you pissed blood?
Welcome to One Cage at a Time, the show where we break down every single Nicolas Cage movie, one film at a time. Here are your hosts, Patrick, Vince, and Nigel.
Yuri Orlov lived the American dream. He went from a child of immigrants barely squeaking by in New York to marrying his dream girl and settling down in a multi-million-dollar home overlooking Central Park. But behind closed doors, he earned his fortune by selling arms to the highest bidder and built an empire coated in blood.
Let's meet the stars of the film.
Lord of War hosts an incredible cast, including four-time Academy Award nominee Ethan Hawke, Bilbo Baggins himself, or Ash from Alien, depending on how old you are, Ian Holm, the lovely and talented Bridget Moynahan, an actor whose name always makes me cringe when I see it in the credit, Oscar Award winner, musician, and cult leader, seriously, look it up, Jared Leto, and the only man I buy my guns from, Academy Award winning actor Nicolas Kim Coppola, better known as Nicolas Cage.
Let's dive into the nitty-gritty.
Lord of War was released on September 16th, 2005, with a budget of between 42 and 50 million, which it always makes me wonder when they have that range. So why the discrepancy?
8 million ever went missing somehow to mysterious...
To some arms dealers. Of some
Russian generals.
Only made back 72.6 million, which is kind of disappointing. I feel like the reviews on this one were kind of mixed, and I feel like U.S. audiences, it was. We'll get into it in the quick facts, but the U.S. government did not want this movie to come out, which is kind of crazy when you think of the subject matter. Like, it was almost like too on the nose of what was going on around the world, and continues to go on, sadly. But yeah, it was. Well,
I think they may have been fine with it until the ending. Until somebody watched the end and was like,
"Yeah."
Like, he has this mystery general from the very beginning when he first starts selling those M16s.
Yeah,
true. Yeah,
to the very
end.
end.
People can imply, if you look at history and you look at important military figures at that time, I think people could probably imply who it was. Somebody that had been in the military a long time.
Yeah. Directed by Andrew Niccol. I'm not sure. I think it's he's like French, I believe. So maybe it's Nicole, something like that. But Andrew Niccol, who wrote and directed Gattaca. He wrote The Truman Show, which he got an Oscar nomination for, I think it was best screenplay. Simone came up with the story of The Terminal, which ended up being that Spielberg movie with Tom Hanks. In Time, The Host, Good Kill, and Anon, which is the most recent movie that he's done. He always tries to put a message out there with every film that he makes, that's for sure.
Yeah, the Truman Show fucked me up when I was a kid, dude.
Am I Truman?
Am I Truman? I'm looking in the toilets for cameras. The only place I found was in the Catholic churches.
Written also by Andrew Niccol, who writes pretty much everything that he directs. He's one of those guys. Double threat. Shot by Amir Mokri, who is an Iranian-American cinematographer who also shot National Treasure 2 and Season of the Witch and some other stuff. Those are the only ones we care about. Coyote Ugly, Bad Boys 2, Bad Boys, just the Michael Bay movies just keep coming up, man.
Yeah, I was going to say this movie felt a little Michael Bay-esque, shot-wise and color tone at times.
Yeah, it did. Fast and Furious, which is not the Fast and the Furious. Fast ampersand Furious. Yeah. I don't know what number movie that is.
The fourth
number
one,
4.
so that's where they got to it. They were like, maybe we should stop tacking numbers on it. It's kind of silly.
Well,
and then we'll make another 7 of these things.
Yeah, it was the return of Vin Diesel.
We'll make it very confusing for people who know nothing about this film franchise.
And Furious, yeah. It was a good film.
Oh, that's right. Tokyo Drift was the third one, right?
Yeah, Tokyo Drift. And then that brought back Vin Diesel at the end, and that apparently led into them relaunching the whole franchise.
Was Vin Diesel in Too Fast, Too Furious?
No, he wanted Vin Diesel money to show his guns, and they wouldn't give it to him, so they replaced him.
And then eventually he was like, yeah, I'll just take not Vin Diesel money.
He's like, Triple X they're not doing any more Triple X. They replaced me in that.
Yeah, that's true.
So I guess I'll do more family movies.
That was his choice. He didn't do Triple X because he wanted that Disney contract, which ended up being the pacifier.
The pacifier, which killed his career until Fast and Furious came back online.
Yeah. Also shot Transformers 3 and 4. Man of Steel, the
oh really?
DC movie, one of the few enjoyable ones, depending on who you talk to. And then also shot a movie that's kind of near and dear to my heart from 1990 called Pacific Heights, where Michael Keaton played a psychopath who moves into a beautiful renovation in the Pacific Heights neighborhood in San Francisco, with Matthew Modine and Melanie Griffith, and he just kind of ghosts them and ends up ripping everything out of the apartment. It doesn't sound great on paper, but it's great one.
That sounds very interesting, actually.
Yeah, it's actually a really great movie. Kind of a forgotten movie for some reason. Edited by Zach Steinberg. It's Staen Berg. Steinberg. Weird way of saying Steinberg. Who also edited Police Academy, the original Police Academy, not the 47 sequels after that, just the first one. Also, the entire Matrix trilogy, which he won an Oscar for, the first one, obviously not the other two. Ender's Game and Pacific Rim 2, among other things, but those are the ones I felt like calling out. And then music by Antonio Pinto, who's a Brazilian composer who's mostly worked in Spanish films, so I can't really speak to the films, but he's also worked in indie films quite a bit. Kind of a sought-out composer, which is kind of funny. Lord of War just doesn't really seem to fit into his list of credits, so Andrew Niccol must have reached out specifically to him, wanted a very specific sound to the movie.
I kind of feel like the soundtrack was kind of muted. Nothing really stuck out to me.
That's I was struggling to remember any of the music.
Yeah, it's pretty muted.
Yeah,
it works for some films.
Yeah. And he was nominated for a Golden Globe for the song Despedida, which he co-wrote with Shakira.
Nice.
For a film.
Different from Despacito?
It is. This is Despedida.
It's the prequel or the feminine version of the song.
Rotten Tomatoes, 61%, which is low compared to, at least my own feelings on the film. I don't know your guys' feelings, but I've always loved this movie. 6.3 out of 10 on 147 reviews. But the audience score is 84%, which I feel is closer to my feelings towards the film. I guess I could see critics taking some issue with the structure of the film. I know that, Nigel at least was not thrilled with the narration throughout. And I know a lot of critics really hate narrated films like this, where it's just tell the story without just
Yeah.
talking over it the whole
That was
time.
my big issue with it. I don't mind that in movies. Like, it happens a lot in Scorsese movies and all this other, there's other movies that do it. But this one, I don't know. It just seemed like his performance wasn't that.
It's pretty
It's
muted.
just kind of flat. Yeah.
Flat. Metacritic was about the same as Rotten Tomatoes with a 62. And then jumping back to the audience, 7.6 out of 10. So, and then cinema score was a B-. I think, this movie is not exactly a feel-good film. That's for sure. And I think, based on what Nick Cage had been doing at the time, I feel like this was a departure, and maybe they didn't want to see Nick Cage as, he really is the villain of this film. Mm-hmm. He's kind of an anti-hero throughout. B- it's pretty low. I feel like that's a really bad cinema score. I mean, that's one of the worst that we've ever had. As we said in previous episodes, anything under like an A- is kind of like this is people who went specifically on purpose to watch the movie, and for people to leave with a B- says that they didn't really enjoy it.
Yeah. I think you're right, though. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that at this time he's doing the National Treasure films. So
Because this was pre-National Treasure, like right before he did National Treasure, or was it?
Really?
Maybe.
Oh, that
Because I think
2004.
National Treasure was 04, right? So he's coming off of that.
So he was like coming after.
So I think people might
National
have gone
Treasure
in
doing
thinking
this movie.
Yeah, thinking one thing, and then they're like, "Oh, this is not a family film.
Let's take the kids
He's not a
to see
likable
Lord
character."
of War.
It's like the Lord of the Rings, right?
Yeah. Opening scene of that kid getting shot in the head might have been.
Yeah.
I
think that's
this is not the movie I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
How about a Coppola quick facts?
Couple of quick facts here. No U.S. studio would back this movie at all. International finances had to be secured. And, this does not paint the U.S. in a good light, especially the ending, which I feel like, they set it up throughout, but it kind of comes out of nowhere that it's like, oh, well, he's going to go to be the U.S.'s arms dealer now.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, that was one of my problems I had with it too. Like, it's a twist, I think. Like, it's intentionally not talked about, but it seemed it seems like it really comes out of nowhere. Like, wait, we saw every other part of this guy's life. Why haven't we seen any of this yet? I mean, I guess we had.
They kind of peppered in that General Sutherland through line. Starting from his first arms deal all the way up.
Yeah, I mean, it was a cynical movie throughout, but that seemed like an even more cynical turn that it took in the third act.
Yeah,
I kind of feel like I feel like they didn't do a good job of setting it up. He's been dealing arms for the U.S. government the whole time. I mean, it's come out quite a bit that the U.S. has dealt guns with the CIA. I mean, look at what was that guy's name? Something North. What the fuck was his name? In the 80s, there's that issue.
Oliver North.
Oliver North, there's that
Contra
issue. And then
stuff.
a few years ago, the Fast and Furious operation that gave the cartels in Mexico a shit ton of U.S. guns. Like,
is that the only reason that you know about that operation was because it was called Fast and Furious?
I thought it was a movie, so when I was reading it, I was like, this is going to be a really good fucking movie. And then I found out that really happened. I was like, oh.
This would make a great movie.
This would, I hope they do that in Fast X.
That's the story.
No, but I felt like, I don't know. I always took that he was dealing guns for the U.S. the whole time. They were paying him to go fund these wars in Africa and all that stuff. And so when it came to the end, and they kind of really hit it on the head, or they kind of lay it out there for you, so there's no more interpretation. It's like, yeah, he is dealing for the U.S. So I just think they did a poor job. That was my takeaway from the moment I saw this film to now. But I could see where there's some confusion because they do distance themselves from that general quite a bit in the U.S. and he's being pursued by Interpol. But my whole interpretation is that he's been dealing guns for the U.S. since he got into the big times.
They kind of say that they're funding their own private wars. So it's kind of like non-sanctioned operations and stuff from the U.S., but at the same time, they kind of imply that like, yeah, the U.S. has known about this the entire time. And
oh yeah, there's no way they didn't know about him. I mean, they know about all those guys. It's just you're not going to take them down when it's benefiting you. And think about like the 80s and early 90s. There were a lot of wars that the U.S. was helping the indigenous people or the rebels, like Afghanistan when they fought the Soviets, and he even touches base on that, right? Like he'll sell guns to anybody.
Yeah. I mean, that's how Osama bin Laden got his weaponry, was from the U.S.
Yeah. Not Yuri though, because bin Laden was bouncing checks.
He was bouncing checks.
Yeah. I mean, do you think it still goes on? Like, do you think Ukraine got all those guns from you think all the guns that they've publicly announced have been sent to Ukraine are all of the guns they've sent to Ukraine?
Yeah.
Oh, God, no.
Like, by the time we heard about that, there was probably 10 times more that had already been sent in secret.
Oh, yeah.
Because they can't, go on the record, especially to piss off something like Russia. Like,
Yeah.
especially in the time when they were trying to avoid pissing off Russia before they realized Russia wouldn't do shit about it. But
Yeah.
And this buildup had been coming for a long time after Crimea.
Years. I mean, because they tried stepping in there years ago and then backed out. So it's been But yeah, I mean, like you can't hide certain things like javelins. Okay, yeah, we sent them javelins, but rifles, pistols, ammunition, things like that, smaller stuff, you could definitely hide and say, no, we didn't supply them with that. Must have been NATO or a European country. So
yeah. So the movie was shot mostly in South Africa. Almost everything that you see was in South Africa, which is crazy that they were able to set up South Africa as so many different countries. There's like 14 different countries featured in this film, which, up to this point doing this show, I think we had 5, and then I added like 12 or 13 or something like that. But so it was mostly shot in South Africa, but then Czech Republic doubled for the Ukraine, and of course New York. And there was one scene that was shot in an airfield in Utah, which I can't remember which one it was. We'll probably talk about it when we get to it. This was based on 5 different real arms dealers. So it's a composite of multiple different people, but it's largely based on the exploits of arms dealer Victor Bout. Boot? B-O-U-T.
It says
Boot.
Boot. Pronunciation looks like it's boot.
Boot.
According to Wikipedia.
Who was a former Soviet officer who became an arms dealer. Finally was arrested by the Thai authorities in March of 2008. Boot, I guess, was known as the Merchant of Death and was trying to make a deal with American agents posing as FARC insurgents when he was apprehended. After languishing in a Bangkok prison awaiting extradition by the U.S., he was tried and found guilty, and still up to the point of this being published, was awaiting sentencing in Manhattan. But he was literally just, in our timeline, we're recording this in August, he was just offered up in exchange for WNBA star Brittany Griner, who was found with like a minuscule amount of weed, but just picked the wrong time to walk into Russia with any kind of like weed or anything like that. But they're trying to do a swap with him and Brittany Griner.
Well, it's her and one other guy. Like I think his name is
Did they get some draft
Whelan
picks
or something like that?
in there too?
It's like I think they're doing it for her because that's where all the headlines are. But there's this other guy named Paul Whelan or something like that, something Whelan, who I'm pretty sure is a spy. Because there's no other reason to tack him on and then bury it under the headlines of, oh, it's Brittany Griner's getting exchanged for this. Mm-hmm. Like, why is this such a big public thing to trade this arms dealer for a WNBA star? It's like, well, we'll do that. And also this other guy who's, apparently got a bunch of, not shady history, but it's a lot of stuff doesn't add up with him and how he was arrested in Russia and being held and stuff. So you kind of read between the lines there and wonder why they're trying to get this guy of all people back along with this WNBA star for this notorious arms dealer.
Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering, like, does that mean that Russia's wanting to put him in jail, or are they? going to just let him go when he gets back.
I think they have need of his services.
Yeah, that makes sense.
He has a particular set of skills
Yeah.
that he acquired over a long career that make him an enemy for Americans like us.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll say it's because they want him, but then he'll get a
Yeah.
mysterious
He does,
pardon.
yes.
He'll get
He's
sent
going
to
to the
some
gulag.
gulag in Siberia, never to be heard from again, but then we'll probably not stay there.
Live comfortably in Moscow. There's a quote from Orlov that says, "I know that just because they needed me that day didn't mean that they wouldn't make me a scapegoat the next." As further reference, Orlov's father is named Anatoly, just like Boot's father. And then final quick fact here, the two characters most responsible for Yuri's arrest are Jack, the Interpol agent, and Ava, Yuri's wife. Jack and Ava are actually the names of director Andrew Nichols' real children. So he named the good guys after his children.
All right, it's time to break down the film one scene at a time. Act 1. Why don't we set some shit
Film
up?
begins with the anti-hero of the story, Yuri Orlov, standing in a war zone surrounded by thousands and thousands of spent ammo cases. He turns around and, with a smug look on his face, he says, "There are over 550 million firearms in worldwide circulation. That's one firearm for every 12 people on the planet. The only question is, how do we arm the other 11? Next, we cut to a factory where we see some cool PlayStation 2 level CGI, 7.62 by 39 bullets being manufactured and sent around the world before one ends up being fired down a James Bond style gun barrel straight into the head of a young kid in Africa. I can see why audiences might not have responded well to this film.
I'm just picturing that, like, with the music. Da-da, 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 da-da. And then the kid and then the blood going down
And
the screen.
that last little like after the
As he drops.
I'm just like imagining somebody who was like a big fan of National Treasure being at this film.
Just like fucking horrified 3 minutes into the film.
This is not what I expected.
Quick fact. In the opening scene of the bullet being manufactured and traveling along the conveyor into its box, the box in front of it has Odessa, Ukraine stamped on it. And that's actually where Yuri's family came from before settling in America. Just all tying it together. We see a young Yuri Orlov standing on the docks in Brighton Beach, New York, where in narration he tells us his family immigrated from Ukraine but pretended to be Jewish to escape the Soviets in the 70s. And we see that his family now runs a Jewish cafe of some sort. I'm not really sure. It's kind of
Seems like it's like a
nondescript.
deli,
just a little
cafe.
restaurant. Yeah,
a little
Yeah,
restaurant.
cafe, restaurant.
I love in movies how they make people look young. They just kind of like comb their hair forward a little bit.
Shave them. Make sure they got no facial
shave
hair.
it.
And,
Do a long
Yeah.
shot. Make sure you
Yeah.
do a long shot on this one. Don't get too close.
yeah, it's Nick Cage. He looked
He looked-
eternally young for
yeah.
a long time.
I watched The Family Man last night, and they have him in the 80s, in like 1987. I was like, we know what he looked like in 87. He didn't look like that at all.
He only had one hand.
It's true.
We see Yuri's brother Vitaly, who makes his entrance by saying, "It's Morbid time." Actually, he just smokes and looks like the kind of guy who'd send used condoms and anal beads to his co-stars to get into character. Just fucking look it up. This is true story. He does some fucked up shit when he's trying to get into character.
I thought he sent
Or into
feces
a
to
teen girl.
somebody too, didn't he?
I think so. When he's
Or like
playing the
dog
Joker.
shit or something. Yeah,
Yeah.
when he was the Joker. I'm
like-
sure all of his
Yeah.
co-stars really loved him.
Oh no,
Yeah.
I think they all publicly came out and said it was a nightmare working with him.
Yeah.
You missed my statutory rape joke.
I'm sure there'll
They
be
did-
lots of those.
Said you did all kinds of weird shit trying to get into character, and I said, or trying to get into teen girls. Starts a cult and stuff, and
Yeah.
a rock band.
The rock band.
Was he in the rock band before he became an actor, or
I think so.
So, yes, but they were not famous or popular at all. He's said multiple times that he got into acting to then finance 30 Seconds to Mars.
Gotcha.
And if it weren't for his success as an actor, the band probably wouldn't go anywhere because his fame then led people to come to it, and then he'd actually pay for them to go tour.
I had seen him in Fight Club and Panic Room and this movie, a few other things. I had never heard of 30 Seconds to Mars, and then I saw a music video and I was like, is that the guy who got his face bashed in from Fight Club? Like, why is he in this band? And then that band got huge for a minute.
Yeah, it blew up.
And like every teen emo girl was like way into 30 Seconds to Mars.
Yeah, that's how I'd heard about it. Was when I was a teen emo girl. I heard about 30 Seconds to Mars.
Same.
I didn't know he did acting for the longest time because I'd heard of the band first.
Those teen emo days when we were dancing in our panties.
Yeah.
Listening to A Girl Like Me.
Trying on stepmom's underwear.
Smoking
Listening
in
to
the room.
Johnny, Are You Queer?
God damn it.
Johnny, are you queer boy? Unlike Nick Cage, certain things didn't age well in those movies.
Yeah. Cage still looks great, man. Like
I think
60
he looks
years
better
old.
today than
Yeah,
he
I think
did
he looks
back
way
when
better
he
now than he
was
did.
in his
Yeah.
20s.
Yeah.
Go back and watching Valley Girl.
He looks so
Moonstruck.
goofy.
Yeah.
What'd you call
Raising
him? It was like
Arizona.
Ross from
He looks like,
Friends.
yeah, like
he
a
looks like
Ross with an underbite. Ross Geller from Friends with an underbite.
I sent you guys that picture of what was the guy Ross Randy. I can't remember what the character's name is, but there's an episode of Friends where they have Ross's doppelganger, and he looks like Nick Cage.
I don't know if you've ever seen that meme where it's like they switched out his face and put Nick Cage's face on him, and it looks even more like Ross.
That's crazy. That's funny.
I haven't seen it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just thought
hilarious.
that the whole time I watched Valley Girl. It's just like, why is this? This is the heartthrob? Like, okay, I guess. I think he looks way better now at 60 years old than he did when he
He
was,
was
in
in
his
good
20s.
shape back then. He had the abs, and
Yeah.
that was
but
before he got
just
his
seemed
teeth
like
fixed.
He didn't grow into his body either. He was all lanky and like he was
Yeah.
tall, but like scrawny. And
He was
Yeah, he's
18.
awkward.
Weren't we
I mean,
all?
he was what? We said he was what? He was 18 when
He
they
was
shot
18
that?
in
So,
Valley Girl, yeah.
All right. Back to the show. We see Yuri eyeing John Wick's future dead wife from afar. Her name is Ava Fontaine, who he says he's been in love with since she was 10. Oh, wait. Since he was 10, sorry. Wait, then how old is Ava?
Yeah, well, yeah.
I've been in love
I'm
with her
guessing
since
maybe
I
she was
10.
she was a model at 18 or something, and then it could make sense.
Yeah, I kind of wonder like how much older Ava is supposed to be than Yuri.
Yeah.
Because she
I mean,
doesn't
maybe she was
look
like
older
10
than
years
him.
older than him. Isn't that what no, what's his name? Jason Momoa did. He married some supermodel that he was in love with when he was a kid.
He married one of the actresses from
Actress, that's
Fresh
it.
Prince.
Yeah,
think she played
but
the
like he'd had a
oldest
crush
daughter?
on her since he
Yeah,
was like
since he
12
was a
years
kid.
old or something,
Yeah.
and then
Then he
ended
became
up-
famous and met her.
Yep, and went
Actually,
after.
I think he wasn't famous when he married her.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I
Huh.
don't think he was
Damn.
famous. I think he was a struggling actor.
He was
when
really
met her.
living the
I'm
dream.
Yeah.
trying to remember, but yeah.
Could you imagine? I just grow up and marry Heidi Klum. You know, it's like
Yeah, well, it probably helps to be
I
Jason
fapped to you
Momoa.
the whole time I was growing up.
Probably helps to be Jason Momoa. If you grow up to
Yeah,
be Jason Momoa,
that's
you
true.
can
Yeah.
probably get with anybody.
God, if I looked like him, I could have bagged Betty White.
My dream girl.
My dream gal.
Take them
We
teeth
also-
out. Take them teeth out. Let's get down to business.
All right.
Call me Blanche.
Oh, shit. Okay. We also see that Yuri's dad has 100% accepted the assumed Jewish identity they chose and has fully assimilated, which pisses off his Catholic wife because I guess he's not miserable enough for her.
That part was great.
Yeah. Just rolling her eyes and shit.
It's like reminded me of Walter from Big Lebowski. Surprised Dad wasn't like Shomer Sabbath or whatever the hell.
Shomer Shabbos.
I think he says something similar like that.
Yeah, there's some sort of
Says he doesn't work or whatever, and she's like, "You're not even Jewish." I have to.
I like it.
I like it.
Yeah, I
He
like
even
it.
talks like a
Yeah, he
he's Jewish.
Yuri explains that murder was an everyday part of life in Detroit. I mean, Little Odessa, which is what the locals call Brighton Beach, since it's mostly a tight-knit Russian/Eastern European community, and Odessa, Ukraine is where many of the residents immigrated from.
I did not know that. I didn't know that it was so like crime ridden. At any point, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
it was bad down there.
I guess New York, just in general, like Manhattan, was
that's
pretty
Yeah.
bad back in the day. I think we forget that because of how cleaned up the island has become, especially since 9/11. They really have cleaned up New York City. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I didn't know that either. I didn't realize that Brighton Beach had such a large gathering of Eastern European/Russian.
I guess
immigrants.
that's where they based the area in Grand Theft Auto 4.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that explains why
The
they had
starting
that
area.
section. Yeah, that section.
I was just looking at pictures of it, and it has that same L train
Yeah.
thing going over it that they set up in the game.
Yeah, when he walks under it, I was like, oh, this reminds me of GTA 4.
Yep.
Oh, that makes sense because he was Eastern European.
Uh-huh.
He explains that Russian mobsters also came to America, and even though someone was whacked in his neighborhood constantly, he had a knack for missing the action until one fateful day when he found himself smack dab in the middle of a hit. We see a mobster who looks like a teenage Draco Malfoy fire an AK at a mobster, but somehow misses him despite shooting at him through a wooden table from like 15 feet away.
He's
movie
foolproof table.
logic. It does look like Draco Malfoy.
He does. Like a dollar store version. The target of the hit pops up and kills the mobsters while Yuri looks on horrified. Suddenly he has an epiphany, which is one of my favorite Stain songs.
Wow. You guys
Has
remember that
anybody
band?
mentioned Aaron Lewis in forever, let alone State? You're welcome, children.
I heard he became a hardcore trumper.
Oh yeah,
Nigel and I went down
started.
a rabbit hole of his country music a few years ago.
God.
yeah.
It's awesome. Highly recommend you listen to it.
Oh, man. How the mighty have fallen. I guess he was
Hey.
never really mighty.
Mighty's a generous term,
Yeah.
He's got the voice of an angel.
and that's coming from somebody who liked new metal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually have contemplated hitting up Stained because they're touring again, and then I heard that he was a hardcore trumper, and then same with Smashing Pumpkins, where I was like, I should check Smashing Pumpkins off my list because they're touring again, and it's most of the original lineup aside from Darcy. But then I found out about all that shit with Billy Corgan, and I was like, nah, I don't think I want to contribute to this guy's.
I'm not aware of all the stuff with Billy Corgan.
Yeah, I hate
Yeah.
Billy Corgan, so I
just don't
stay the
like him, so-
Fuck away from
He's
him.
an
Yeah.
awful, like, I hated him even when the Pumpkins were big. But
I hate him. I hate that band. I hate everything.
Well, then you're probably a perfect Smashing Pumpkins fan.
yeah.
Not touche. I guess despite all my rage, I'm still just a rat in a cage. He says, you go into the restaurant business because people are always going to have to eat. So that leads him to decide, right there and then, to go into the arms business because people are always going to be trying to kill one another.
It's true.
Perfect logic right there.
It's recession proof.
It's recession.
100% true.
Join our Patreon to help us fund our next business venture, which is arms dealing. We got bills we got to pay.
Yeah. That's the thing with an honest buck. They're so hard to make.
They're so hard to make. He heads to temple with his dad to make contact with a guy who can get him Uzi submachine guns and quickly sells the guns to a couple hollow-eyed, creepy dudes while busting out his best used car salesman routine. He explains that your first arms deal is a lot like the first time you're having sex. It's confusing, and for some reason your uncle is involved. No, wait. That was my personal experience. What he actually says is, you have no idea what you're doing, but it's exciting and over quicker than you expect, which can still be said to this day about my sex life. He says he's been running away from violence his whole life when he should have been running towards it. And he quickly decides to enlist his poor, hapless, creepy as a serial killer brother in on his new business. Vitali is busy getting drunk in the kitchen, where he explains that he put up a sign saying, "Beware of the dog," to stop himself from fucking everything that moves, killing weaker dogs, and starting a cult or whatever.
That's such a really... What a weird way to introduce a character.
Yeah, it was really stupid. I feel like that was just like a early 2000s trope. Like, oh, this guy's a bad, sexy
What
guy.
a badass.
Yeah.
He's
What a
badass.
badass.
I put up a beware of dog sign in the kitchen of the restaurant I work in to remind myself not to fuck everything that moves and kill other dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Honestly, that scene has always bothered me. The moment I saw this movie for the first time in the house, it's just so stupid. And he's a spoiler alert. The character's a bitch.
Maybe that's what they're trying to set up. He's just
Maybe.
like,
He's
he
a female dog.
He thinks he's this badass, but
Yeah.
we then discover that he's actually a fucking bitch.
just to put up a stupid poster to remind himself.
I think it's funny that they make him kind of like from the time he gets into drugs until the end of the movie, he's just this loser, absolute fucking loser. And then suddenly he's the like moral compass of the movie.
Yeah.
Like out of nowhere.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
He's
they
just
kinda
been
like,
garbage
Yeah, he had that
throughout
one
the whole
scene
movie.
where he felt bad about them shooting those kids.
Yeah.
yeah.
They
Like
just had
his whole-
sprinkled that one tiny little thing in there.
Yeah. Well, his whole thing is he's addicted to drugs because he can't live with the consequences and like the reality of what him and
Yeah, I
Yuri
guess.
were doing. But instead of manning the fuck up and trying to actually stop it from happening until that final moment, which was like the worst time you could have fucking done it, he just is a bitch the rest of the fucking time. Yuri says, "What if that's the best part of you? The dog part." And they play a quick game of Red Rocket. Which brought me back around on that scene.
This scene's actually great.
It's actually a great scene.
I can see why people think that Jared Leto's hot. I get it now.
I get it.
Gave me a red rocket.
He tells his brother that the margins are too low with the gangsters in Brighton Beach, and he wants Vitali to join him in selling guns internationally to warring nations. Vitali says, "I can't. I have a 30 Seconds to Mars tour coming up." But Yuri is insistent since that band sucks, and Vitali reluctantly joins his brother after Yuri says, "I need you." And in Russian says, "Brothers in arm." Get it? Because they're guns and they're brothers.
Also, he's a big Dire Straits fan. They bond over it.
What a pull, man.
What a pull. 99% of our audience will not understand that fucking reference. They head to an arms fair in Germany where we see some sexy pinup girls on tanks, missiles, fighter jets, you name it. Yuri tries to talk to a legendary arms dealer named Simeon West, but when Yuri suggests that they go into business together, Simeon says he chooses sides rather than sell to everyone, and that Yuri is an amateur who has no idea what the hell he's getting himself into.
Which is kind of true, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of, it reminds me of like in The Godfather when Corleone is just kind of like refusing to go into the drug business, but it is the future. It's like, okay, either do this or get left behind. And that's sort of what happens here. It's like Simeon was the powerhouse and then things changed and it became the dirty, awful business that it became.
Once the Cold War ended and then everything just sort of developed into proxy wars and
exactly. Yeah. You start funding terrorist
stabilization fell apart.
Yeah.
Global stabilization fell apart.
Yeah. Rather than give up, Yuri and Vitali head back to a hotel to fuck. Oh, shit. Some girls. They went back to fuck some girls. who were models from the arms fair based off of the clothing they were wearing.
Yeah.
Yuri watches a war report on TV while a gorgeous model tries to get him in the mood, but he only has rockets and bullets on his mind, if you know what I mean.
Red Rocket again.
Just see Vitali kissing him on the neck, and then two girls going at it in the other room. This really is a weird movie. He just did National Treasure. What the fuck?
What the fuck? That's your brother.
I brought my kids to this.
They saw the future.
Brought my kid to this.
He and his brother head to Lebanon, where he says he got his first break after a suicide bombing, where he spots a shot of his 10-year-old crush, Ava Fontaine, on a cool cigarette billboard ad. In a burnt-out warehouse, we see literal piles of M16 rifles left by the U.S. government after they pulled out of the region, which they had left behind because it cost too much to bring it back than to buy new stock, which checks out based on the sweet U.S. gear the Taliban is now rocking.
Yeah.
That we left behind after we backed out of Afghanistan. So, this movie just like very, very prevalent, even in today's world. It's scary how accurate this film has come to be.
We should point out that she's not 10 years old on the billboard.
Yeah, I thought about that too.
It was
It says his 10-year-old crush, but it's the crush he had from when he was a 10-year-old, not a 10-year-old girl.
I just thought it'd be funny to say she's 10 years old.
It's the inverse.
Based off of Nigel's
10-year-old
comments
on the
about
cool cigarettes ad.
Yeah.
Based off of Nigel's comments on Nick's love life, people might actually think we were serious that she was only 10 years old.
She's
not
how
10
old was
years old.
Nick Cage's wife when this movie came out?
I don't know.
How old
that
was
she was born.
How old were her parents?
How old were her parents?
Because she would have been that old, right? Because women have their eggs from birth. Anyways.
Oh my God.
I think she's like 27.
She's
so
27.
She would have been like 10.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
would have been. Oh, so, yeah.
Because
So
I
then
would have been
his
18 when
10-year-old
this came
crush
out.
was on
So,
there.
yeah. She was younger than that. Oh, God.
We'll go with the jail. Okay. Yuri and Vitali sell the guns off to the highest bidder, with the U.S. Army getting a piece of the action, of course, since some generals were willing to take bribes to fund their own private wars. This is the first time we see a faceless general named Colonel Southern, who is voiced by the legendary Donald Sutherland.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Kind of a weird. I didn't know that till I was looking up, through the cast.
Yeah.
Donald Sutherland as the faceless general, Colonel Southern. Which I kind of wondered,
got that
did they
great
name him
voice.
Colonel Southern because Sutherland? But
Probably. I wouldn't be surprised.
But I'm sure they just had him go to a sound booth and do that because that
Yeah,
character
the actor was not hit. That was not him.
Yeah.
definitely not.
Playing that shadowy figure.
No.
They probably just had him do voiceover. Yuri bitches about the small potatoes money they're making, and Vitali asks if he wants to go more legit. And he says, no, more illegal. Suddenly we hear gunfire, so the brothers stuck behind a wall. When they look to see who's firing, it turns out to be a firing squad mowing down little kids. Vitali wants to join the fight to save the kids, but Yuri says it's not their fight, so they bail.
So that's the only time that they sprinkle in Vitali.
Yeah. It's also foreshadowing, like, the fuck's your plan, dude? Like,
Yeah.
Walk out there and get shot?
Yeah,
Yeah.
seriously.
Because that doesn't really go so well. Oh, and it doesn't go well when he, when he
Yeah.
actually does it.
Yeah, they
Like,
they
what a
foreshadow
stupid time to take a stand
Yeah.
Yeah.
at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Spoilers. Fuck.
We see a montage of the brothers selling guns to every army except the Salvation Army, which is weird because I figured they would be the most fortified army in the world. They sell Uzis to Muslims in Africa, bulls to fascists in South Asia, and weapons to Al Qaeda. Though he never sold to Bin Laden, since he was always bouncing checks, like we mentioned before.
It was kind of like,
I feel like they put that
None.
line in there just because this was made in 2005.
yeah.
Yeah,
They're like, he's not a
Well, he
total
didn't have-
monster. He didn't sell to Bin Laden.
I think
He
it
didn't
was
have
to
to sell.
paint him even more as like an awful piece of shit. Like,
Right.
Because I feel like at this point you might still be on his side a little bit.
Yeah.
But
It's like, oh, he
when
didn't
you're
sell to
like,
Bin
oh,
Laden.
he's sold to the fucking
Yeah.
Taliban over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I thought it was more like, well, he didn't sell to Bin Laden, so how bad
So
could
he's,
he?
yeah, he's a good guy.
because he couldn't pay, so he would have sold to him, which he would have. Yeah, it makes him even worse. He
Only
doesn't
because
care.
he was
He just cares
bouncing
about the
checks.
money. Yeah. He says that by the mid '80s, his weapons were on the battlefields of 8 of the world's top 10 war zones. And we see a fun little shot of an AK firing with each bullet casing flying out to the sound of a cash register. Back in New York, we see Yuri open a cargo container under a bridge, where inside we see that he has relocated his Batcave from Wayne Manor. Wait, fuck, no, wait, that was a different movie. Inside, we actually see Yuri has a stash of guns, passports, briefcases specifically set up to pretend to be from different regions of the world.
Did feel like the relocation of the Batcave in Dark Knight.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, well, in Dark Knight, when he first goes to the container, it's like, oh, he's going to get his guns.
It's unlocking it next to Yuri Orlov, unlocking it, and
Yeah.
nod at each other.
What's up, Bruce?
Had to buy one of Vicky Vale's paintings.
On a cargo ship in the waters outside of Colombia, Yuri explains that without businesses like his, it would be impossible for certain countries to wage respectable wars. But he's able to navigate around arms embargoes since he could fudge the paperwork just enough to make governments think his deals were legal. He gets a call alerting him that Interpol's hot on their heels, and he comes up with the smooth idea of changing the name of the boat as well as the flag signifying what country they represent. Here's a quick fact. In order to avoid being captured on the high seas, Yuri paints over the name of the cargo ship he was smuggling arms on and changes the vessel's name, and the national flag it's sailing under. It is considered incredibly bad luck to change the name of a boat, and it was at this point in the story that Yuri's luck actually starts to change and go badly from here on out.
Yeah, I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
Whether intentional or not, that was a cool one.
Yeah,
From
I
that
know
moment on, his luck starts going down
Everything
the toilet.
starts going. Yeah, everything starts
Literally
going
gets shot in the next scene.
Yeah. They quickly repaint the name of the boat from Cristal to Kono, and the flag to a Dutch flag, so by the time the authorities get there and call in the name, it comes back as legit. We're introduced to Maya Hawke's father, Ethan Hawke, whose character is an Interpol agent named Jack Valentine. He boards the ship, but only finds week-old rotten potatoes.
Put
That
some
scene really
respect
bugged
on
me, though.
Ethan Hawke's name.
Let's make him Maya Hawke's name. Or make him Maya Hawke's father. That's what he's known by as. Or known as.
He was in the
this.
Explorers, goddammit.
Hey, listen, this young generation doesn't know who the fuck Ethan Hawke is.
He's got
He's the
4
bad guy in
Academy
Moon
Award
Knight.
nominations. Yeah, he was in Moon Knight. Come on.
Nobody knows that.
He's in that new
Who watched
horror
Moon
movie.
Knight?
Haven't
where
you
he's-
seen Boy? It took 12 years to make.
Have you seen Assault on Precinct 13?
I think he's
Training
like the
Day?
most. He's just like discount Tom Cruise. So he seems like if you haven't watched him in other stuff. He just-
Yeah.
Which
Just
is
like
like
him
stand-in
and
to Tom
him
Cruise.
and Matthew Modine are like the same person or
Yes.
whatever.
It's just
That scene
brilliant
really-
actors.
That scene really bugged me though because like Yuri's standing on the back looking with binoculars off the back
Yeah.
of the boat and he sees the Interpol boat coming and like they repaint the name of the boat right there in full view of the Interpol boat, but then they
Well-
show a reverse shot of them coming from the front
Yes,
of the boat.
Exactly. Yeah. They were never coming from the rear. They were coming from the front. Yet somehow he was able to look
You
up
didn't
the
see him,
rear of the
and they
of the
didn't
boat.
see them repainting.
Here they come.
Here they come. Hurry. Yuri gets an intelligence agent on his payroll to call in a sighting for the Cristal somewhere in the north, and that's enough for Yuri and Vitaly to survive their first run-in with Valentine. In Colombia, his client pays them in cocaine, which turns out to be a big mistake. Whoa. Whoa. Says Vitaly, a.k.a. the human vacuum cleaner, proceeds to snort his weight in coke during every scene he appears in for the remainder of the film.
This is
also
like
Yuri
a real,
accidentally-
like, quick turn. Like, we never saw that he was into drugs. He showed that
Yeah.
he was into drinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's an alcoholic.
Fucking A.
Yeah,
dude.
man, you get some uncut cocaine. You know?
I just feel like
Some
if you
coca.
snorted that much coke in that short amount of time without a tolerance, you would just fucking die.
I assumed
dude.
he was already a cokehead. We just hadn't seen it yet.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. Oh, also, Yuri accidentally gets shot in the kidney by the drug dealer after things get a little testy, since he was hoping for money rather than some nose candy. Instead of going to a hospital or something, Yuri and Vitali get loaded on coke, which sends Vitali on the mother of all benders. He takes an entire kilo, yeah, that's right, a kilo of cocaine with him, and splits from his brother to party it up across half of South America. Yuri tracks him for 12 days, over 2,000 miles, to a Bolivian boarding house where we see the worst actor to ever play the Joker shaping a line of cocaine into the outline of the country of Ukraine. You know, I used to not really hate Leto as an actor, but going back and watching some of his films, I'm starting to not like him.
I really can't stand Jared Leto. If you can't tell from some of the things that I've written in here, I cannot stand that dude. I don't know like what it is about him, but he just gives me the heebie-jeebies. He's just a weird freak. There's something off about that guy.
That's how I feel about John Malkovich.
Malkovich doesn't give me those same vibes. I don't know why.
Leto doesn't bother me. John Malkovich always bugged the shit out of me. And I
Really?
don't know why. Yeah.
Yeah, Leto never used to bother me, but I don't know. Go back and watch some of the films, like this one in particular, too.
Yeah.
Just, I don't know, he just
I
brings the hell
remembered
out of
him
me.
being really good in this movie, and then I watched it and I was
Yeah,
like,
me
oh,
too.
yeah, he's exactly the same in this as he's been in everything else for the last 20 years.
I don't want to watch Requiem for a Dream again because I love that movie and I don't want it to be ruined.
Yeah.
I don't want to watch Dallas Buyers Club again. I don't necessarily love that movie, but I thought it was a really good movie. I thought it was
I
put
would
together
say,
really well.
out of all the things that Jared Leto has done in his entire career, Dallas Buyers Club is the first time I was like, wow, he fucking knocked it out of the
Yeah,
park.
he nailed him and McConaughey had such great chemistry in that movie. It was so good. I don't want to ruin that by going back and then nitpicking my irritations with him in it. Yeah, Suicide Squad, man. Can't watch that again because I don't want to ruin my fond memories of it.
Hugga, hugga.
Fuck.
Anyways, Yuri knocks down the door and chucks all the coke onto the carpet. And Vitali sniffs it up off the dirty ground like a dog trying to lick up the juice that comes out of the garbage bag after they've been left in the sun too long. I think that's a very, very precise description of what happened in that scene. Ass in the air, just snorting everything up.
We got to get every drip of this.
Snorting coke, pubes, fingernails.
You have no idea what's in that carpet, man. Just so gross. It's not like some high-end hotel or anything. It's a fucking boarding house.
It's a boarding house in Bolivia.
Yeah.
So there's probably already a bunch of coke.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, it's probably
Yeah.
just coated in coke.
Yeah.
He takes his coked up brother home to New York, where he drops him off at a high-end rehab, but not before spilling out some coke between his legs, so Vitali can snort it up. Oh, fuck. Between their legs. Not, although it does kind of look like Vitali's like,
Just like put his hand down.
and he's all patting him on the head.
Yeah. It's a weird shot.
Like in Goodfellas when he goes and meets, or no, it's a casino.
Casino.
Pesci goes and meets up with Sharon Stone's character.
God.
Oh, his junky fuck up of a brother snorts up the coke while Yuri rubs his head and looks at him disgusted, thus ending their business relations, which can only mean good things for Yuri. Right?
Get him
He
out of
says
the
he can't-
picture, man.
Yeah. He says he can't understand what separates recreational drug users from the habitual, but thankfully he didn't end up a coked up loser like his baby bro. He goes on to explain he wasn't entirely free from the grip of addiction, and he sees yet another billboard of his dream girl, Eva Fontaine, who he also saw on a billboard during his adventures tracking down his brother in South America. So, you know, it's like fate. You know, it's like fate's gonna bring them together or some shit.
It's his obsession, man.
I think he was
Really
stalking this
creepily
bitch.
gets with her in this
Yeah.
in the second act.
It's a similar story to how I locked Nigel up.
Wait, I don't remember you booking an entire hotel for us.
Was
Dahlon's
the Motel
bedroom, but
6?
Where was your private jet?
You guys were
BMW.
shooting each other with ketchup and mustard.
with ketchup and mustard.
Act 2. It's about time we had some conflict, wouldn't you say?
Over in St. Bart's, French Caribbean, we see Yuri trying not to have a cow, man. I mean, Yuri setting up an elaborate ruse to win his dream girl. St.
Because
Bart's.
Bart's.
Yeah.
Okay. I was trying to figure out how it was connected there.
Yeah, St. Bart's.
Oh, man.
He books her for a $20,000 photo shoot, which he then cancels last minute, leaving her alone with him at the hotel, which he also bought out for $12,000, so they would spend the weekend as the hotel's only guests.
Not creepy in the slightest.
Or weird. I guess he's got an excuse for it when she asks. They flirt with each other from the distance before he pervs on her at the beach and suggests she fly back to New York with him on his private jet, which he also fakes to make her think, as Cosmo from Moonstruck would say, he's richer than Roosevelt. He says some hurricane kept everybody in the world from coming to this hotel, this island, the hotel. He says he nearly went broke trying to convince her he's rich, but it works better than Castor Troy letting her know that he can eat a peach for hours, and Ava falls for him.
Awesome. I was so hoping you'd make a joke about that.
I saw the plane and I thought immediately of that.
Awesome. I'm so happy.
Yeah, me too. I also thought of him going, "Am I getting through to you, Ava?" Well, he did, because they get married and move into a gorgeous condo overlooking Central Park, where we see Yuri's family and friends there with him to celebrate. By a window, Ava is looking at photos of her parents in a locket where we find out they were gunned down. I wonder if that'll ever come up again. She says she knows Yuri isn't everything he seems, but says she won't ask any questions as long as he continues to fund her incredibly expensive perfect life. What a woman.
He's painted as kind of the hero in this story, but at the same time,
Yeah.
But it's okay because she's an artist or something. I don't know. She's sensitive. Well, she doesn't give a shit where her husband inexplicably has all this money.
yeah.
Then,
As long as she can, as long as Yuri continues to eat her shorts, man, like he did in St. Bart's.
Nice.
What a horrible
eat
joke.
I could eat her shorts for hours. Then that fucking weirdo from Requiem for a Dream shows up, looking like the creepy fuck he is, which makes you wonder if Jared Leto even had to go through wardrobe and makeup, or if he just stumbled in off the street for this role, sunken eyes and all.
Oh, God.
He open-mouth kisses Yuri's new bride on the lips, instantly giving her an incurable herpes infection, and then dances with her while Yuri cucks it up from a distance, relieved to not have to explain how he affords all the luxuries she takes for granted for the rest of the film. So I guess she'll also put up with his rapey little brother getting really handsy with her, as long as she can keep shopping at Saks Fifth Avenue.
Yeah. He's fun. He's fun.
Spontaneous. Son,
So spontaneous.
he dives into the Christmas presents that one time. It is like Kiefer Sutherland. We see a time jump to the 90s where Yuri is wearing hammer pants and that he and Ava have a new son named Nicky. Ha!
I have to wonder if that was like,
Yeah, I wondered
did
too.
Andrew Nichol name it Nicky? Name the kid Nicky
Nicky.
just because of Nick Cage.
Little Nicky. Here he explains
God damn it. Sorry.
Yuri explains that he was still living way beyond his means to keep his gold-digging wife happy, but gets crazy happy when he misses his son's first steps while watching the fall of the Soviet Union on television. Just in case you haven't keyed in that he's a bad guy. He's also a neglectful father.
Yeah.
He immediately plans to visit Ukraine and asks his dad about an uncle who happens to be a major general in the Soviet army and has access to literal tons of weapons, arms, and ammunition. Suddenly, Paul Allen shows up with a hooker, and unfortunately, Patrick Bateman isn't there to take an axe to his head. The tally pops in just to quickly ruin Christmas, and then seconds later, Yuri takes his method-acting ass back to rehab. Shows up, drinking, falls on the presents.
Do you think he was high on coke and drunk all the time in this role?
Yes.
He's a method actor, you know?
Yeah. He was like, acting? What? Wait,
What do you want me to do in this scene?
the character's gotta
We
be
already
drunk?
did it,
Yeah.
Jared. He sent all the actors bullets with cocaine in them.
That was just Jared showing up on stage or on set, just coming through the door with the
It's
hooker, falling out of the props.
You're not supposed to be here today. Your scenes aren't till tomorrow.
Thank God we filmed that, though.
It works. Put it in.
Oh yeah, and we got the one superfluous boob shot in this scene, where the hooker gets kicked out and then she flashes her boob to the camera, like a Science Sono movie.
I forgot about that.
Did I count that one?
I hope you did, because it's the only one in the movie, I thought.
Yeah.
Or maybe there's some
Come out.
side boob later on in other parts, but it's really quick and
Oh, yeah, I got it.
kind of hard
I
to
got it.
notice, but also like right in front of the camera for
I
no
got
reason.
it. I did get it.
I did not remember that.
Thank God.
So when I was rewatching it, I was like, whoa. Okay. All right, I guess they had to get one boob in.
Yeah,
To show that she's a junkie whore, you know?
sure.
Well, I mean, she was there with Jared Leto, so it's assumed.
Yeah,
true,
it's
that's true.
kind of extra, unnecessary. Vitaly warns Yuri the things he sells kill. No shit. After snorting coke off a car seat filled with beer farts, and Yuri heads to Ukraine. Over in Ukraine, Yuri connects with his uncle Dmitry. He explains that over 1 million Soviet troops were stationed in Ukraine during the Cold War due to its strategic military importance, and there's nothing better for an arms dealer than disgruntled soldiers who are no longer getting paid with warehouses full of weapons. His uncle agrees to sell Yuri munitions after he tells him the governments are too busy trying to figure out who gets what now that the USSR no longer exists to care what happens in the military property. Or to military property. He tours the warehouse, packed to the gills with 40,000 AK-47s. He tells his uncle to fudge the numbers so the superiors think they only have 10,000 and to have them send even more supplies. Quick fact, according to writer and director Andrew Niccol, the filmmakers worked with actual gun runners in the making of this movie. The tanks lined up for sale were real and belonged to a Czech arms dealer who had to have them back to sell to another country. They used a real stockpile of over 3,000 AK-47s because it was cheaper than getting prop guns.
That's just insane to me.
They really
Real
are
guns
a
are
bunch of
cheaper
surplus.
than
Yeah.
prop guns. I mean, that's nuts, dude.
Yeah. They also, I read that they were a different model. They weren't necessarily AK-47s. They were like some similar model that only it's like minor cosmetic differences that you wouldn't notice when they're all lined up on racks. But when they had close-ups, they used actual AK-47s
That makes sense.
so that gun nuts wouldn't freak out, I guess. Next, we see them touring an airfield with tanks lined up for half a mile, helicopters being worked on by Nicolas Cage's son, and finally Yuri calculating how much he can get for all of it. Didn't know that was his son, but I guess, yeah, that makes sense why he's in the movie for 2 scenes. I wonder if that's the Utah airfield that they filmed at.
That might have been, yeah. Well, no, because I feel like the tanks were in
Oh, yeah, they would have been
the
in
Czech Republic.
Czech Republic, yeah. So
Yeah. Though I don't...
maybe the airfield, maybe the Utah airfield is when they go to Sierra Leone with all the guns at the end, and then they land, and then they have to load them into the truck as medical
probably, yeah.
equipment and go somewhere
No, they
else.
said that was actually South Africa.
Oh,
They landed for that scene.
maybe the airfield was where they filmed the gun show that they go to inside that hangar.
Yeah, that might be. Though I feel like that was also
Yeah.
South Africa. I don't know. I'm not sure.
I guess we'll figure it out, or we'll keep trying to figure it out.
But it might have been this scene with Weston Cage, because you don't really see the reverse with the tanks, right? In that scene,
Right. Could have been. It was a close up of him on the helicopter.
Though he's in the scene later on when Ethan Hawke shows up.
When
he
they're
has
on
to
the
take
dock.
parts off of the gun or off the gunship to make it seem like it was a humanitarian
When they were
ship.
supposedly in Odessa, I think, the Odessa port.
Yeah.
Quick fact number 1. Before shooting the scenes where tanks were lined up for sale, the filmmakers had to warn NATO lest they thought a real war was being staged when they saw satellite images of the set. As we know now, they're pretty on top of monitoring that whole area via satellite. So they would have definitely seen all these tanks lining up at an airfield. Quick fact 2, Weston Cage, Nicolas Cage's son, is the young Mi-24 Hind helicopter mechanic Vladimir. In the movie, Yuri speaks to the mechanic in Russian. Son, get off there before you get hurt.
Meta.
Yeah. We see Yuri's rival, Simeon West, trying to get in on the action, but Yuri pulls up with his uncle, and the two of them tell him to get fucked. Over dinner, Simeon tries to reason with Yuri while a waitress flirts with him. He tells her to come back to his room so he can show her his cannon, and somehow that barn burner of a pickup line ends up working for him. Well, that and he had money, so that probably also helped.
Yeah.
And he looked like Nicolas Cage.
Everybody's for sale in Ukraine is what this movie is going with.
If I looked like Nick Cage, could I just say any stupid shit and women would be fawning all over me? Is that how this really works?
That's how Nick Cage works. So.
All right.
Yeah. I love attack crows. Oh, Nicolas Cage son.
You ever read Fantastic Four? Mind blowing.
He could stretch for miles.
You want to see my cannon?
I own a castle.
Several, actually.
Got a T-Rex skull in one of them.
First edition of Superman. You ever seen one of those? You're about to.
Superman. Here's a picture.
I named myself after a blaxploitation Marvel comic. You want to see why? I feel like that one would work, actually. It's a pretty good line.
Yeah. It's much better than the line he used. Yeah.
They show up to his house and he fucking just flips on a light. It's just a whole room of Luke Cage comic books. Let me walk you through from first to current. And then we'll watch the show.
This is Diamondback. Here's the back.
He tells Simeon he's out of touch and doesn't understand how the arms game is played anymore since he won't sell to countries trying to kill Americans. Simeon asks if they could work together, and Yuri again tells him to fuck off, which causes Simeon to drop an idle threat about things getting messy when arms dealers go to war with each other. Yuri bangs the waitress in his room while getting turned on talking about all the former Soviet states ripe for pillaging now that the Soviet Union is gone. So he's got a one-track mind.
Yeah.
Next, in narration, Yuri explains why the Automat Kalashnikov model 1947, or AK-47, is Kalashnikov is the most profitable and popular weapon ever created. It's a weapon all fighters love since it doesn't break, jam, or overheat. It will shoot whether it's covered in mud or filled with sand, and it's so easy to use that even a kid can use it. And they do. Next, we see our old pal Jack Valentine of Interpol show up at the border ready to bust Yuri once again. But again, Yuri outsmarts him by changing around the shipping for different parts of an attack helicopter to make it seem as though the pieces are going to separate countries for humanitarian efforts. Valentine knows Yuri's playing him yet again, but there's nothing he can do since technically what Yuri is doing is legal due to a loophole. Next, we see Dmitri arguing with Simeon West while Yuri watches on. Dmitri tells Yuri Simeon tried to beat his offer, but Dmitri told him to go have intercourse with himself. It was not a direct translation. Probably more slang used.
Go have intercourse with yourself.
I guess Dmitri pissed Simeon off because he jumps in his car, turns the ignition, and the car blows up after proclaiming himself the luckiest man alive. Yuri watches on in horror as his uncle burns, but with all the vodka in his system, I'm sure Dmitri didn't feel a thing. Probably even helped him cook faster.
Jesus. Wait, almost instantly.
Yeah.
You set fire to kerosene or something.
That's actually why the car exploded. He just tried to light a cigarette or something. And then
No, just the ignition from starting. Just a spark from starting it.
Simeon
All the
had
vapors
nothing
coming
to
off
do
him.
with it.
Yeah, the vodka vapors. Boom.
Yuri calls home, and Ava tells him she blew an audition, and she's apparently trying to be an actress now that she's past her cover girl prime. She tells him to come home, but their conversation is interrupted by people being gunned down in the street like half a block away from where Yuri is calling her from. He's like sitting up on a balcony or something. I was like, Batman? I don't know what he was doing up there.
I thought
It
he
looked
was on the boat still.
Oh,
Yeah.
maybe. He's looking down at a bar, so it looked like he was up on a building or something across the street from it.
Yeah, maybe. I got the feeling that he was at the dock still because
Yeah,
he looks
maybe.
across like a pretty long, pavement.
Yeah.
that's empty area.
I guess
figured
there'd be a
that was the
dockside
docks.
bar, and they're having a shootout.
Yeah.
But he doesn't seem concerned in the slightest and tells her it's just a party. That's how they party over there. In narration, he says the $32 billion in arms were stolen and resold from Ukraine alone, which he calls one of the greatest heists of the 20th century.
Yeah.
Over
It
in
was
Liberia-
all of those different Eastern Europe nations that fell during the fall of the USSR, like all of those places got pillaged like crazy because the Soviets weren't really keeping track of it at the time because they, were trying to figure out who was in control,
Yeah.
who was going to run this new Russia.
I think he even says that to his uncle. He's like, the ones in power don't care or something, or the ones that care don't know, and the ones that don't know don't care, or something like that. Or the ones that know don't care. And he's like, I can't just sell you all these guns or whatever.
Yeah. And he also, I don't know if that's actually how it worked, but he was like, you're in dire need of restocking because they fudged
Yeah.
the numbers to say he only had 10,000
Yeah.
AKs instead of 40. So I wonder if they actually did that where it's like, we need more stock, and they sent the stock and then just sold it to the arms dealers.
Yeah, I'm sure that's...
Yeah, I'm sure that's accurate.
I've been reading a lot about that's part of why Russia's in the state it's in right now with a war that they weren't ready to fight.
Yeah.
Because on paper, they seem to have a lot more than they actually had. And now there's probably been a lot of reckonings with generals having to report why they don't have as much shit as they said they did.
Hey, that's why they want Victor Boot now is,
Yeah.
hey, you're the reason we're fucked over right now.
That could be
man.
also, maybe they do
Yeah.
actually want him back for
Yeah.
Take
for
it out on
punitive
him.
reasons. Over in Liberia, Yuri explains he did the bulk of his business selling to a self-declared president named Andre Baptiste. The dictator's son and his driver speed over to Yuri's cargo ship in a Bonneville, firing a golden AK in the sky, while two Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders sit in the back of the car. Yeah, you heard that right. He politely asks Yuri to come with him, and by polite, I mean he kind of sort of threatens to kill him if he doesn't go with him. Yuri tells us President Baptiste had a reputation from hacking off people's limbs, so he wasn't in a big hurry to go meet him. During the meeting, Yuri shows Andy some guns, but the president becomes distracted by a young guard hitting on a girl nearby, so he promptly shoots the kid in the chest. Yuri screams, "Why'd you do that?" And then tells Baptiste he's going to have to buy the gun now since it's used, which immediately endears him to Andy since it shows that Yuri has balls.
A used gun. A used gun. That's a good one.
Show me your
used
balls.
gun.
Show me a balls.
Can't sell used guns.
I mean, not anymore.
That would be awesome if Andre Baptiste Sr. and Jr. both went in unison. Show us your balls.
Quick fact, the character of Andre Baptiste is loosely based on a famous warlord and ex-leader of Liberia, Charles Taylor.
He was a real fucking treat of a human. If you want to fall down a rabbit hole, read up on Charles Taylor. What a good dude.
Real humanitarian, some might say.
Andre Jr. and his driver and cheerleaders drive Yuri to a hotel, while Andre fires his AK into the air the whole time. Yuri explains that Andre Jr. was a cannibal and would eat people's hearts while they were still beating. Seems like a fun guy to hang out with. Yeah. We see glimpses of Monrovia, which seems like a charming place to vacation. We see a kid with a wire version of an AK, some dudes wandering around draped in bullets, and a dead body in the street being eaten by a vulture. At the Hotel Africa, Andre Jr. asks Yuri to get him the gun Rambo uses, and Yuri asks,
Part 1, 2, or 3?
and Andre says he's only seen part 1, and Yuri immediately knows which guns he's talking about. So, I guess Andre Jr. is kind of a man of taste because he's only seen the good Rambo movie.
Hey, man, those movies are all amazing. Just different levels. First movie is a very, intelligent critique on our treatment of people after the war, and then everything after that is let's shoot a bunch of fucking guns.
Yeah. After that, it's like, hey, what if the U.S. had won Vietnam and also stopped the Russians in Afghanistan single-handedly?
If one white man went into Afghanistan and fought the entire Soviet army,
Yeah.
we would have won.
If Rocky would have gone in there, the M60.
He heads to his room to find 2 prostitutes waiting for him in the most AIDS-infested region on the globe, but he manages to keep little Yuri in his pants after fighting the urge, even after they promise they don't have anything. Back at the presidential palace, Andre Sr. shows off his Kalashnikov kids, who are boy brigade of his army and are like 10 to 14 years old. Andy says kids are just as effective as his 40-year-old soldiers, and no one can stop this bath of blood. Yuri corrects him and says, I think you mean bloodbath. And Andre says, I like my way of saying it. Inside, Andy says he's not going to pay Yuri's asking price since you can buy an AK for the price of a chicken in some parts of the country because there's so many already. He tells them he'll pay him in blood diamonds, and Yuri says he can get him personnel carriers, which will greatly reduce his casualties. This prompts Andy to say, they call me the Lord of War, but perhaps it is you. Yuri again corrects him and says, the word is warlord, and Andy again says,
Thank you, but I prefer it my way.
Back in New York, Yuri says that by the 90s, his wealth had caught up and even surpassed his lies about his wealth. We see him buying a painting which turns out to be his wife's, since that's what she's doing now to help pay for their multi-million-dollar home and extremely expensive tastes. At home, she's overjoyed. Someone bought some of her motel art while drug addict Vitaly crashes into the couch, lamenting for his days working for Tyler Durden on Operation Mayhem. He's hanging out with a junkie whore named Candy who says they have a beautiful everything.
She's not wrong.
Nightmare having this guy show up with his skanks all the time.
Just imagine, you have this perfect, idyllic life overlooking Central Park, but then you have to deal with this
Your
fucking guy
brother-in-law
showing up all the
shows
time.
And the fucking horse she brings.
Yeah, that
You
beautiful.
got a heads for knowing.
Fuck you and the whore you wrote in on.
Yuri, you have such a head for knowing.
What do you do? I'm a plumber. I sell copper pipes to people.
Maybe that's what Cosmo was doing the whole time in Moonstruck.
Selling
Secretly an arms dealer.
selling arms. Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's why his pickup line about the copper piping was so bad.
Yeah.
He rehearsed that. He said, no,
shit.
you want to buy the copper piping.
Yuri kisses his son goodnight, but spots a toy gun in his room, which he promptly throws in the trash. So maybe an hour into the film, he's finally starting to develop a conscience. And this is 15 years of doing this shit? Something like that. 10 years, maybe. I think it's because he saw the child soldiers and they reminded him of his son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the kitchen, Yuri asks his brother how he is, and he says he's doing his part as the resident family fuck up, and Yuri says somebody has to do it. Vitaly asks if Ava knows what Yuri does, and he says she doesn't have to know since he leaves his work at the office. Vitaly then asks for some money, because of course he does, and Yuri asks why he needs it 12 times. Then he asks what we're all thinking.
Why? Why? That was actually an homage to, I think it was Rumblefish. There was a scene where he did almost exactly the same line reading. Why?
He's just finally
Tell
fed
me
up
why.
with this shit coming into his house all the time. And
Yeah.
then he asks what we're all thinking, why are you so fucked up all the time? Which is a question I want to ask Jared Leto in real life, except I'd word it more like, why are you so fucking weird all the time? Dude literally dresses like a Muppet. Ezra Miller modeled their whole life after this fucking weirdo.
Except Ezra Miller isn't, I think, going to be as successful.
No. Ezra Miller is going to be more successful as a fuck up, I bet.
He pushed it a little too far, too fast, you know?
Yeah.
He didn't even let the Flash movie come out before he started acting crazy.
No.
Yeah, you got to ride the wave a little bit before you can start doing this stuff and get away with it.
We see Yuri and Ava get busy in the shower, where Yuri says she didn't care what he did for a living, but seemed content with her 18-karat diamond earrings and saw him as a good provider. It's a great foundation for a relationship. Yuri says that despite the other women he's routinely banged on the road, he always made love to Ava as if she was the only one, so that's cool. Next, we see Yuri in a limo pissed that a shipment of guns he sold were being rejected because of peace talks, so he reroutes them to the Balkans because when they say they're going to have a war, they mean it. He notices a helicopter passing the car, so he tells the driver to take Park Avenue and hops out of the car under an overpass and then tells the driver to take the helicopter on a tour of New Jersey. So they have like that. Interpol's just constantly surveilling him, spending all this money watching him like a hawk. Yeah.
Nah.
Watching him like a hawk. Yuri heads to his cargo container where we see him stash Ava's painting. He gets a call from his wife where she tells him there are Interpol agents digging through their trash. She starts to get suspicious and asks Yuri if they have anything to worry about, which he says of course they don't. Agent Valentine finds shredded documents in the trash and pieces them back together, revealing a flight plan. We see Yuri in a cargo plane over Sierra Leone, now in the year 2000. He says he was now the best merchant of death alive, which is a high honor, and says he now owns a fleet of airplanes. He explains he was running guns into West Africa at least once a week and occasionally had to cut corners, so he didn't always have phony paperwork, such as on this current trip. Suddenly, a jet shows up next to the plane and Agent Valentine tells him to reroute to a nearby airfield over the radio. Yuri tells the pilot to fly, bitch, fly, like in Face Off, but they say they had to comply or they'll be shot out of the sky. Why is he on this like deal? I guess like if he's got a fleet of airplanes, it doesn't seem like he has to go personally do all of these things.
I think he does, though. I think he has to do the actual sale.
Yeah, I guess. And he's also the one who's like apparently the brains of the operation, because if he hadn't been there, they would have caught this plane.
Yeah.
The more important question is, why the fuck is Valentine in an F-15 or F-16, whatever they're flying?
I told you, he's discount Tom Cruise. He's just trying to be Tom Cruise.
They have like a fucking music library, free music library version of Danger Zone.
I'm gonna bust a tower. The jet fires warning shots over the plane's wing, which are a tad bit more than warning because they hit the side. Yuri comes up with a bright idea to put the plane down on a road since the jet can't land there, but the pilot is apprehensive since a pothole could set off the munitions they're carrying. But Yuri reassures him by saying,
You underestimate yourself, Alexei. You're the best. You're the shit, Alexei. You're the shit. You're the shit. You're the shit.
Alexei,
this was the cagiest little scene in the whole film.
Yeah.
Alexei, who came in 42 out of 43 at the Moscow Flight School, attempts to land on an African highway, which is literally just a dirt road. The jet heads off to an airfield 15 minutes away, and Agent Valentine says they can't get far. They manage to land on the highway, and Yuri hands out all the weapons to the many people walking down the road. The plane is emptied in minutes flat, so by the time Agent Valentine catches up to them, there's absolutely nothing left for Interpol to bust him on. Valentine is understandably pissed to have been duped by Yuri yet again, and so is his Sierra Leone partner Mizi, who says,
Let me make him disappear, Mr. Valentine. Around here, people disappear all the time.
I can't do that.
Look where we are. Who will know?
but Valentine again plays things the legal way. He handcuffs Yuri and tells him that his AK-47s are the real weapons of mass destruction, since 9 out of 10, every 10 victims in war are killed with small arms.
Yuri's damn lucky that Valentine was like...
I think he says that.
Plays it legal.
He
was
said he
the
got
rare
good
rare
luck
breed
of getting the one straight cop basically on his case.
Yeah. Which I got to imagine that's probably what happened with some of these arms dealers that they based it off of. Just kind of got lucky to come across people who weren't going to hack off their head and leave them in the fucking desert.
Yeah. Yuri says he doesn't make anyone put a gun to someone's head and make them shoot it, but he prefers that people fire his guns and miss. Yuri asks if he can go since they have nothing on him, but Valentine decides to leave Yuri handcuffed sitting on a crate in the middle of West Africa, since legally he can hold him for 24 hours without charge. So I guess that means he could just leave him in the middle of a desert for 24 hours and hope he doesn't die of thirst or
be killed by one of the locals or something.
Yeah. Seems kind of a weird thing for Mr. By the Book to do.
Yeah. Especially since he knows that every single one of those people just got a fucking AK. Rocket launchers and shit.
Holding Yuri there gives some innocent man, woman, or child an extra day on this earth since he delayed him, though. Though I will point out that he has just handed an entire plane full of rocket launchers and machine guns to everyone in the area, so I'm betting at least a dozen people die within like an hour. We see a cool time lapse of the locals tearing down the plane to pieces over the course of the next night, taking every last nut, bolt, and tire. By the time Valentine shows up the next day, there's nothing left to say except a few chunks of airframe.
I thought that was a cool scene.
Yeah. So just the way of the desert.
Yeah.
Everything returns to the desert.
Yeah. I mean, I'm guessing that they're making houses and huts and stuff out of those plane pieces. But, I was always kind of like, what are they doing with all this stuff? Like, what are they going to do with those wheels that they carted off?
Put them on
my sick car.
Make a horse cart out of them.
Yeah, that makes sense. Or like a ox plow. Ox cart.
Yeah.
Act 3, The Resolution.
Yuri stumbles back to the best 4-star luxury resort Sierra Leone has to offer, where he finds Andre Batiste Jr. and Sr., as well as the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders waiting for him in his room, with Yuri's old pal Simeon West tied to a chair, badly beaten.
At least it's still better than Hotel Rwanda.
Andy says it's a gift and hands him a gun. He tells him he was afraid Simeon might die before Yuri had a chance to kill him, and explains that Simeon came there to take Yuri's place as Andy's arms dealer. When he removes Simeon's gag, he tells Yuri that he was there to supply Baptiste's enemies, not Andre Batiste.
So we should let him go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure Baptiste was like, oh, okay, sorry, this is all a misunderstanding.
Andy tells Yuri that Simeon killed Dmitri and was planning to kill him too, but he failed. Yuri tells Andy he won't kill him, but he still seems to want him dead. It's like, he doesn't want to do it himself, but, still wants him dead. He never says anything about, like, stopping this until it's too late.
Yeah.
So Andy makes it easy for him by pulling the trigger himself while Yuri holds the gun. So, like, holds over the top of him, ends up pulling the trigger himself. Which splatters Simeon's head all over the fine decorations of this beautiful and charming hotel room he's staying in.
It's
the Hotel
symbolism.
Africa.
It's symbolism.
Yeah.
He might not fire it, but he holds all those guns.
Yep. Andy tells him that he could have stopped it at any time he wanted to, but Yuri waited to say no until after the deed was already done. Now that Yuri is kind of a murderer, he takes it about as well as you'd assume. He goes off the rails hardcore, wandering the charming streets of Monrovia, drunk out of his mind. He stops into a bar where the bartender informs him that a handsome admirer bought him a little brown. which is not what you think. I know what you're thinking. Brown
down? I'd be down for that.
Browntown, down to Browntown. Apparently, a brown is a line of cocaine with gunpowder in it. And the bartender convinces him to snort it by insinuating the guy who bought it for him will probably kill him if he doesn't. And he should at least try it once because it's his gunpowder. If I had a nickel for every time some guy threatened to kill me if I didn't go brown with him in a sketchy dive bar.
Stop hanging out in the Tenderloin. Or the Castro district.
I would much rather spend a night in the Castro than the fucking Tenderloin, that's for sure. The bartender pours a line of Coke, then gunpowder on top of it out of a shell casing, and Yuri snorts it right up like Vitaly snorting Coke off the dirty carpet in Bolivia. Yuri wanders out into the slums of this lovely town where they leave dead bodies to rot in the streets since it's such a common occurrence, and finds himself in a fun middle-of-the-night soccer game, which leads to the cagiest moment of the film. He claps like Terrence McDonough on his way to meet Big Fate before trying to kick the ball and falling on his ass and laughing like a lunatic.
I mean, was it in the middle of the night or was it in the middle of the day and then they put a stupid filter over it to make it seem like the middle of the night, which is really like, I haven't seen this technique since the 60s. Did shitty westerns or whatever.
Yeah. Is that awful nighttime filter?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just kind of a blue filter
Make
over
everything
the top
blue
of
and call it nighttime.
Yeah. That's moonlight that's shining on them.
Moonlight.
Leaving full shadows
Yeah.
on everything.
It's a bright moon. Full moon.
Yeah. Next, he wakes up with an African prostitute giving him the business while he stares at her like David Waters with that prostitute in Las Vegas. You see, all of these films connect. Every one of them. Bad Lieutenant, The Trust. I mean, those were already connected because of Munt. David Waters Munt.
Munt.
Hey, Munt.
Hey, Munt. That's going to be my favorite Nicolas Cage quote of everything. Yeah. It's the stupidest quote, but it's just, I don't know why. It's just something about that
Munt.
goddamn name.
It's the fucking name.
He's horrified when he wakes up and realizes he had unprotected sex with a woman in a place where 1 in 4 have AIDS. But since she's a prostitute, I'd say he's 100% gonna get AIDS.
Yeah.
Which is a nice little keepsake he can bring home from his travels for Ava to have.
God.
Ava can enjoy that.
Jesus.
Everybody knows you can't pass AIDS long when you're making love.
Yeah, he doesn't treat her like the randoms he has on the road.
Yeah.
Next, we see a fun little drug-induced montage where a little girl asks him if her blown-off arm will grow back. Then he sees Simeon smiling at him with a hole in his head, who tells him that he should be taking sides. Then he stumbles upon some dudes with machine guns who plan to kill him, but the gun jams, so he shows them how to fix it, and even sticks his head up to the barrel. But they politely decline his help and beat him up a little.
But it was weird because he was even like, I don't give a fuck because I'm ready for the big ride, baby. And then that didn't work. And then he was like, slay me. I'm ready. And they still didn't kill him. And he was like, well, this is... I can't remember. It's an indictment on the system. That's how many times Nicolas Cage wanted to commit suicide in these movies.
Slay me. I'm ready. Finally, he ends up in the outskirts of the town where even the hyenas think he's too much of a scumbag to eat.
That part was funny.
Yeah, he's like trying AIDS to die at this point.
Yeah. They can smell the AIDS.
Oh, fuck.
It's like those dogs that can smell Parkinson's. Yeah. Same thing. Yeah. Hyenas can smell AIDS from a mile away.
That's why all those warlords have them as pets.
It's fucked up. Back in New York, we see Ava sitting with Agent Valentine, who tells her all about the great guy Yuri really is. She asks if he can prove any of the things he says, and he says he can't, but requests her help in bringing down the man who puts a roof over her head. He pulls on her heartstrings by bringing up her murdered parents, who were killed with illegal firearms, just like the ones Yuri sells. This prompts her to tell him to leave, but from here on out, she kind of questions Yuri's every move. Yuri comes home from his fun Africa trip, and she's waiting for him naked since everything he's bought for her has blood on it now that she knows where it all came from. Like she gave a fuck before. I don't know.
Right.
He tries to reassure her, saying that Valentine was lying, but she sees right through it, and he admits that he sells people a means to defend themselves and screams that there's nothing illegal about what he does. She says what he does is wrong, and he breaks down. She begs him to stop and tells him she's a failed actress, failed artist, and not that great of a mother. But she refuses to fail as a human being, which convinces him to go legit for like 2 minutes.
Pretty good line, though. I like that line.
Yeah. Yeah, she needs to work on herself as well. I feel like, she's not even in the same stratosphere as Yuri's awfulness, but, some things she could work on. He stops running guns for 6 months and instead starts selling timber and oil, which confuses the hell out of Agent Valentine, who is listening to his every conversation on a wiretap. Yuri gets frustrated since the only problem with an honest buck is that they're so hard to make. You and me both, man. I swear. And he laments for his life as a gun runner. Suddenly, Andre Batiste Jr. and Sr. drop by Ava and Yuri's place for a fun little visit, and Yuri is horrified to see them. I love that. It's just the president of Liberia is here.
Yeah, show up.
Oh, okay. She almost acts like that's a regular occurrence, too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Baptiste tells them they're hoping to do some shopping while they're in New York. That's what we all do when we go to New York. And since Liberia is having a difficult time securing weapons, he tells Yuri he's compelled to be unusually generous. Andy says, "We'll see you soon, Lord of War." And Andy Jr. tells him he still hasn't gotten his Rambo gun that he's been waiting for.
That's what I'd be saying, too. Dude, where's my Rambo gun? Come on, man.
Still haven't brought me the gun of Rambo.
Yeah.
Yuri decides it's worth it to do one last score. That's how they always get you. Ava and little Nicky Coppola head to swim practice, but it turns out that it's all a ruse and Ava knows he's up to something. She tails Yuri to his cargo container hideout, where after he leaves, she figures out the combination is their son's birthday. She opens it up and finds Yuri's man cave of death, or as the government describes, a catalog of carnage. I think a lot of these were actually lifted straight out of Victor Boots' write-up after he got caught. Over at the family Jewish cafe, Yuri enlists his brother for one last trip, since I guess he's finally clean. So that seems like a good time to take him along on a deal to sell guns to a genocidal warlord. Yeah. Now that he's finally on the straight and narrow, which I think is hilarious that they dropped him out of the movie just long enough for him to get clean so he can die. He says he can't since he has a girlfriend and his life isn't horrible for once, but after some sweet talking from Yuri and dropping his brothers in arms catchphrase from earlier, Vitaly says, "Fuck it, it's Morbin time." Glad we got that joke in there twice. That joke that probably will be forgotten by the time this episode comes out.
Yeah, people are like, what the fuck is Morbin time? Don't they mean morphin time? Morbid idiots.
They head to Liberia with a plane full of weapons where they meet Baptiste and son at an airfield where Andy, I think that's the airfield. I think that's the one there.
Yeah.
Where Andy lets him know he's not actually buying the guns, since Liberia is now a democracy, but rather guns are for Liberia's neighbors in Sierra Leone. Which Vitaly is terrified to go to Sierra Leone. I don't think that he had ever been there up to this point. So I don't think that they did those deals while Vitaly was part of the operation.
No.
He says he wants Baptiste Jr. to accompany them to make the introductions, and on the road, we see that Yuri has finally given him the gun of Rambo, which he uses to shoot random people along the road the whole drive. What a great guy this Baptiste Jr. is. Do you imagine living your entire life and then it's just some jackass is just driving down the road shooting randomly into buildings and stuff? Oh, this is how I die? Great.
Yeah.
What's it all been for? We see a refugee camp where dudes with machetes circle around all of the refugees. Nearby, Yuri meets with the freedom fighter who plans to purchase the weapons. During the deal, Vitaly figures out what the guy plans to do with all of these weapons when he spots a woman and her kid being slaughtered with machetes at the refugee camp. Ugh, what a horrible reality all of this is. He tries to talk his brother out of doing the deal, but he again tells him that it's not their fight, and rightfully says they'll kill them either way, but the two of them will also be dead if they back out of the deal, which is, yeah, spot on. Bad timing, Vitaly. Just grow a conscience. Vitaly seemingly comes to his senses and they go back to negotiating the deal, but then the Joker gets the bright idea to blow up a truck full of munitions with a grenade. Baptiste Jr. tries to stop him, but when there's a will, there's a weapon, as Yuri says earlier in the movie. Vitaly bashes him across the face with a crowbar. It's funny that's, yeah. It's all been weapons up to this point, but crowbar. He chucks a grenade into a truck, destroying the merchandise, and then is gunned down immediately because, of course, he is. In his dying moments, he tries to blow himself up with a grenade, I guess, but Yuri stops him, and with his dying breath, Vitaly tells his brother to take his greasy remains back to his mother. No, that part didn't actually happen. Through tears, Yuri collects himself and finishes the deal rather than, die as well, while Baptiste Jr. burns on the ground nearby. To just see his flaming body. The freedom fighters immediately use the guns to slaughter everyone in the refugee camp, and he says in his experience, you can't prevent massacres like this. And they say evil prevails when good men fail to act, but what they ought to say is evil prevails. He takes his brother's coffin back to Liberia, where he locks eyes with Andre Batiste Sr., who lets Yuri leave rather than chop him into pieces for being at least partially responsible for his son's death.
Right.
Since they see something they hate in each other, I guess. I was kind of confused about that. Like, why wouldn't he just kill him? Because he's almost threatened to kill him multiple times throughout this movie. And it's like, it was his fault bringing Vitaly along on this score,
because Vitaly got killed. He sees it as they're even.
I guess.
I guess.
Doesn't seem like the kind of guy
who... idiot son's dead. I didn't like that one anyways.
Maybe later on he comes and hacks him to pieces in New York. Shows up at his apartment.
Let's go shopping. I mean, chopping. Let's go chopping.
Let's go chopping.
You like Hughes in the news?
He's wearing a plastic overcoat. Hey, Yuri.
Is that a raincoat? Is that a raincoat? You
have like a dog or something. Yuri returns home, but at JFK International, TSA spots a bullet under Vitaly's ribcage, prompting them to call the ATF. Let me guess, this isn't about the tobacco or the firearm or the alcohol. It's a great line.
Yeah.
He laments that he smuggled millions of rounds of ammunition, but the bullet that lands him in jail is found under his dead brother's rib, since he paid a Monrovian doctor $20 to remove the lead from Vitaly's body. But I guess his skills were on par with that doctor from Dying of the Light in Kenya. $20. Come on.
That's a lot of money, though.
That's a lot of money.
I know, but...
Maybe it was one for every bullet, but there were 21 bullets in there. So the doctor was like, nope.
I'm leaving this one. By the way, everybody in that country had a real Black Panther accent.
I know. I remember.
Where you
So
going with this?
I thought I thought of that. And I was watching it, and I remember seeing a thing of they made this big deal about how Chadwick Boseman like made up that accent to play T'Challa. Like he made up
really?
the Wakandan accent. I'm like, it sounds like every other fucking African accent they do in movies. Like I don't understand.
Sounds very similar to this this accent that Andre Batiste has.
Right.
No, I don't know if they saw the same like African speaker at some point, but it's
maybe I don't know.
It's interesting how similar they were, because this is the only time I've ever heard that accent sound exactly the same as the Black Panther one. Mm-hmm. Which I love the way that Chadwick Boseman did that accent.
Yeah,
it's so identifiable as Wakanda, you know.
Yeah.
But it's funny, like this is exactly the same.
Yeah, should have had
like
Andre Baptiste
10, 15 years before Black Panther came out.
Andre Baptiste playing Monger of Kills.
Can you get me vibranium?
That'd be awesome if he shows up and
Wakanda forever.
He's the new Black Panther.
Yeah. He's
Some
the new
warlord
Black
they got.
Panther.
He's the only actor that could do that accent.
Fucked up. We see Ava and Nikki leave their lap of luxury behind, and she leaves Yuri once and for all. Yuri calls his parents, who declared that both their sons are dead, and hang up on him. Agent Valentine pays Yuri a visit in jail, where he smugly enjoys taking down the man he's been hunting for years. He shows Yuri a newspaper, and on the front page we see an article that reads "Merchant of Death in Custody," with a photo of a cop piling guns up from Yuri's cargo container. Valentine outlines everything they have on him thanks to his trophy wife leading them straight to the container, which I guess she didn't actually tell him about.
Yeah,
they just followed her, while she was following Yuri.
Yeah, so she could tail Yuri without Yuri noticing, but they tailed her. So, and
Yuri still didn't notice that either.
Yeah, maybe that's why, because they weren't tailing him; they were tailing her.
I think he would have spotted her immediately.
Yeah,
honestly.
He said something about how she was the only person that he wouldn't have noticed following him or something. But it's like,
never been followed by the love of my life.
Yeah, like, does she follow you a lot? Clearly, she doesn't. I don't understand how this.
Yeah. Convenience.
Yeah.
Science.
Yuri looks through the newspaper for a moment before telling Valentine to enjoy his victory, because any second he'll be set free. I think it's funny that he just flips to some other page.
Yeah. What else we got?
The whole time that Valentine's like, "What the, like, you smug son of a bitch. I finally have you. Why are you happy about this?"
Yeah.
Valentine chuckles and tells him he's about to be put away from multiple life sentences, but Yuri explains that soon Jack will be called outside and someone who outranks him will tell him to let Yuri go, because he's on a first-name basis with some of the most vile dictators alive. The biggest arm dealer on the planet just so happens to be the President of the United States, who ships more arms in a day than Yuri does in a year. And he needs freelance arms dealers like him to do the deals so the U.S. can supply forces it can't be seen supplying, and he's a necessary evil. On cue, someone knocks on the door, and Yuri is released. In narration, he says he fully appreciates that just because the U.S. needs him that day, it didn't mean that they wouldn't make him scapegoat the next. We see him back to what he does best, supplying arms to continue the destruction in third world countries around the globe. He addresses the camera again and says, "You know who will inherit the earth? Arms dealers, because everyone else is too busy killing each other." We see a reverse of the first shot of the film and Yuri walking away on the street paved with bullets. A caption comes up on the screen saying, "While private gun runners continue to thrive, the world's biggest arms dealers or arms suppliers are the US, UK, Russia, France, and China. They are also the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council." Definitely making a statement with this film.
Yeah. And then he said, I'm fast food. That's his final lines. I figured it out.
A man who travels as much as Yuri Orlov needs to kill a ton of time. I mean, think about it. Even with a private plane, it's still a 10-hour flight from New York to Sierra Leone, 12 hours to Ukraine, and he said he was making those trips multiple times a week to keep up with demand. I mean, there's only so much time you can spend thumbing through the paper looking for proxy wars. Thankfully, with a subscription to Libro.fm, he can get a new audiobook each month for just $14.99 plus tax. And he can really bone up on his language skills, learn the local customs of the charming countries he's lucky enough to visit, or just research the latest and greatest in small arms manufacturing. And since he's a resident of the US or Canada, he'll get a free audiobook when he signs up for a new monthly subscription by entering the coupon code CAGE at checkout. Not only will Yuri squeeze more reading into his busy life, he'll be helping to support local bookstores as well. Get started now by visiting Libro.fm, and don't forget to use our promo code CAGE at checkout.
We have a Coppola questions before we move on.
Coppola questions. I don't have a lot, but when Agent Valentine is in the plane and they take off, and the plane goes and lands on the highway, why didn't Yuri and the other pilots just take off and fly somewhere else? Just because they were maybe they were tracking them?
They would have caught him again. Yeah. You can't outrun an F-16 if you're in a giant cargo plane, and they already had the signature, so they would have just caught him again.
Yeah, I guess.
His one shot was to get rid of all of the merchandise before Valentine could land, and then get on a car and drive over to where they were. So
I wonder if this actually happened.
It seems a little dramatized.
Somewhere. Yeah.
I
saw that.
Also super realistic.
I saw how they filmed that. Like they had to film it in 3 different shots, but those people were actually on the road. They were just way further up, and they used the telephoto
forced perspective to make it look like they were right behind them.
Right over them.
Yeah, but they actually, they had to film it all in real time like that.
That's pretty crazy.
Before, the crazy amount of CGI that they use on films these days, they would have just done that all in CG.
Yeah.
Now, but
unless Tom Cruise was involved, okay, they'd be like, "You're gonna spend $50 million shooting this scene, and you do it now." Yeah.
We're gonna be hanging outside of the plane for no reason, even though we're trying to land.
We need to really go to space.
I want to be standing on the landing gear when you hit the dirt road. Don't kill me.
How did they insure those movies?
Oh my God, it must be insane.
Yeah.
Imagine how much it costs to insure Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Well, he broke his leg on that one.
Yeah.
Mission Impossible. Jumping from the rooftop to
the
last
that's right.
Before this new one that's coming.
Or his
out.
ankle. Broke his ankle.
His ankle, I think.
I can't believe they insured
on
him
the
after
take
that.
that's in the movie.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, because then he gets up and runs.
They're like, you're a 50-year-old man, like you're doing parkour.
He's like, Elron's got me.
Got those thetans keeping me going.
Thetans will keep me safe. Do you think Valentine took Yuri to a nearby town, or did he have to hoof it after spending the night in the desert or whatever? Think somebody came and gave him a ride, or
maybe he got his one phone call and he called somebody to come pick him up.
It's the
seems
most
like
awkward
Valentine would give him the phone call.
You want something to drink?
You're a baseball fan.
Yeah. Got something I'm thirsty. You left me in a desert for 24 hours. Can I please have a drink?
Valentine, I could eat a peach for hours.
You a Yankees fan or a Mets fan? I knew you grew up in Brighton Beach. Who do you root for? This one is this is my ultimate question of the whole thing. Do you think that Yuri gave Ava AIDS?
I mean, we established it was a prostitute who 100% had AIDS.
Yes.
So I think we established that. Even though the film doesn't allude to it at all.
But it has to be.
Be pretty suspicious if Yuri started using condoms all the time after his travels.
Yeah.
I say yes, he did. Only because that's what she then died of. Well, she was married to John Wick.
They should have made that the catalyst for her ratting him out. Was that she started getting sicker and sicker and didn't know how, and then went and found out she had AIDS. And then,
All right, and my final question is, why do you think Andy let Yuri live?
yeah, that's one of mine too. I don't know.
I mean,
Like,
he shot that kid for flirting with a girl.
The only thing I can think of is that he needs him. Like, he's the best arms
guess,
dealer that he's
yeah.
got. He'll put up with a lot of shit, even the death of his own son and losing half of the merchandise from that deal over.
Makes
as
me
long as he
wonder
can keep
if
working with Yuri.
if Andre Batiste has like 20 kids, you know.
Probably.
Probably, yeah.
Doesn't seem like a guy who practices safe sex. Does he have AIDS?
He might have AIDS.
Jesus, fuck.
Maybe he gave Yuri AIDS.
We do this
That was
together.
That was his payback. I won't kill you, but I'm gonna fuck you.
You can say stop whenever you want.
After
We do it together. It's our bonding moment or whatever he says. So we already asked the one, how could he see the ship off of the aft of the ship, looking at seeing the Interpol ship coming in? Why didn't the Interpol ship see them frantically painting over the name of it?
I mean, you could explain that away of like he's just looking in all directions.
Yeah.
But he literally like sees the Interpol ship.
I know now
From
they
the
have
back of the boat.
transponders. Like, you can track every ship if you know the name of it. Like, just online. I don't know if they had that back in, I guess that
It
was
was
the
supposed
80s,
to
so
be
maybe not.
Yeah,
But-
like late 80s somewhere.
So it was probably easier to pull the wool over their eyes and stuff. But also, like, didn't this crack Interpol team notice he was using a French flag turned sideways to be the Dutch flag? Like, the proportions of the flag were wrong.
I mean, I've
But-
seen those long, skinny flags before.
Damn it, God.
So I guess you could say that was normal.
How did Yuri recover from being shot in the side point blank range by the coke dealer? Like,
Cocaine.
he just like shrugs it off, and then he's like, the next day he's going to find Yuri. You know, he gets on a bus and travels all the way across South America, and like, it's no problem.
It says it was 12 days. There's no way that he would have recovered from that.
Yeah.
He did say that the bullet went straight through, so I guess he would have been fine getting back into the U.S. But it went through, I think it would have caused some damage, man.
Yeah, hit some guts and or at least torn a bunch of muscles and like just straight in the side from like 6 feet away.
Yeah, like in the kidney or something, right? You got two of those. You're fine.
Yeah, I'd say maybe he paid some doctor $20 to remove his injured kidney and then got over it. What did Vitaly expect to happen at the end there? Like, he says he's trying to save Yuri, but like, why doesn't he realize that that's probably going to get Yuri killed? Like, just like, maybe that's what he doesn't care. He's trying to save his soul, but like,
I guess,
it's like, just what a fuck up. Like, he's. I don't know, dude. I'll just blow up
films, you know?
Yeah, and I'll just blow up both of these trucks while we're here surrounded by these guys making you deal with them who we just watched murder some people. Like, and we'll get away scot free.
They didn't really have a lot of guns. I feel like the guys who were in the refugee camp only had machetes, so maybe they were thinking like, let's kill these guys who have guns here, blow up the arms, and then we'll kill the machete guys, and then walk out of Sierra Leone. It was a really dumb thing. I think that, you know, he was trying to save his own soul there. Like, we have the opportunity to do something right with our lives, but it's like you're committing suicide, dude.
Yeah,
and not just that, but you're probably getting your brother
to
killed.
commit suicide.
Yeah.
Like, he's trying to talk his brother into committing suicide right then. You know, stupid.
What's the final tally?
Nigel, you want to hit us with the old curse tracker?
Yeah. Let me open this up so I can see it better. Okay, for Lord of War, there were 32 total curses. 7 of which were shit. 2 were ass. 1 was bullshit. 1 use of God. and 21 uses of fuck. So
It's always the
it's
number
always
one.
fuck. That's the number one, but it's kind of middle of the road as far as movies go that we've seen with the usage of fucks. So that brings our total uses of fucks up to 287 and 557 for the total curses.
He does have his trends, right? There's like always a ton of fucks, and then there's shit is always second.
Yeah.
And then
I've
it's a
actually
smattering
noticed
after that.
while watching this, like I can tell now when he's gonna swear. Like I can get ready for it. Like the part when he's in the plane when he's like, "You're the shit," and I could tell he was gonna say it more. And then he says, "You're the shit. You're the shit. You're the shit." He says it 4 times. I don't know if it's just I've keyed into his mannerisms now, and I can tell when he's gonna riff, and you know they probably just let him go and he swears and stuff. But he does have certain patterns to the way that he when he goes into a Cagiest moment, you can kind of tell what's going to happen.
Yeah, he has that fuck in the plane too. That was, like I swear we've seen that in other movies. That exact delivery of fuck.
Yeah, I can also, and as I was noticing, I was watching Spirit of Vengeance again. Unfortunately, and he doesn't swear very much in it, but I could tell one of the times where there was going to be a swear, and there was.
Spirit of Vengeance was PG-13 as well, right?
Yeah.
God,
I almost went the whole movie with only a swear right in the very first, right at the first beginning of the movie. He says "badass," and then I almost went the entire movie with nothing else, and I was going to be super pissed if I had to watch the whole damn thing again just to get one swear written down right at the start.
It's badass.
badass. All right, runtime. It was 121 minutes, which is actually pretty high up there. I think that's our 5th highest film. Tied with Bringing Out the Dead, Mandy at 121. I was watching The Family Man, and that's like 125. I was like, it's a Christmas movie about, what ifs, and it's, why'd you make it so damn long?
Yeah,
2 hours and 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's a long film.
So that's going to be our 3rd highest film. It's a Christmas movie.
It's fun.
Weird. But yeah, 121 minutes, that puts us, 5th. Or tied for 4th, I guess. For nudity, I counted 3 female breasts. So we saw a lot of ones.
Yeah.
A lot of one breasts.
One.
And then there were 3 female asses. There was the one after the arms fair, and then there were the 2 in the room with Vitaly when he's in Bolivia. And then I think one of the breasts was I think both of the 2 breasts the first 2 breasts were in that scene after the arms fair, and then the other breast was Vitaly's hooker girlfriend, whose breast just falls out of her shirt for no reason. So that brings our grand total out to 38 breasts, 6 female asses, 6 male asses. We were outpacing male asses, or male asses were outpacing female asses for a long time there. 1 vagina and 2 penises. I forget so we had Jeremiah Sand. What was the other penis?
That's the only one I remember. I don't remember the other one.
There was another one.
From the Trust.
Yes.
Oh, the photo.
In the Polaroid.
Photo.
That's right.
Yeah.
Who can forget that?
Who can forget that one?
There's one in there that
us apparently.
Well, you'll see it. All right, state and country tracker. We only went to one state, which was New York, but we went to 11 countries, which up till this point I think we had done 5 total. So we added 11 extra countries, which I'll go through. Germany, that was the arms fair.
Trade show.
Lebanon, trade show. Lebanon. I wasn't sure exactly where he was in Africa, but it looked like Namibia. So I counted Namibia. And then when he sells to the fascists in Southeast Asia, I'm guessing it was Burma or Myanmar as of 1989. Those ones I'm not 100%, Namibia and Burma. But Afghanistan, we know for sure, Colombia, Bolivia, the French West Indies or French Caribbean, St. Bart's, which actually belongs to France. So that actually counts as France.
By proxy.
Which is the weird way to add France to our list, but that counts as France. Then Ukraine, of course, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. So that brings us up to 15 total states and 17 total countries now. So I guess we had done six countries to this point. Never was able to. I didn't count Germany from the Trust because he didn't actually. Cage didn't go to Germany, but technically went to Germany for a second. Budget versus gross. 42 to 50 million was the approximation. Where did that $8 million go? I don't know.
Shady gun deals instead of buying props.
Actually, I wonder if some of it did have to go to that Czech guy.
Yeah.
So I approximate it as 46 million. We'll just call it 46. And it made 72.6. So did make profit, technically. So grand total now, we have $721.6 million, and then that's our budgets, and a gross of $1.5 billion. 1.503, I think, is what it's at now. Top grossing, this is actually the sixth highest, which just overtook Matchstick Men, which we just talked about not long ago, as the sixth highest behind National Treasure, Face Off, Gone in 60 Seconds, Ghost Rider, and Moonstruck. I feel like Moonstruck is still the most surprising out of all of those.
Yeah, super surprising.
Lord of War, I feel like, was intended to be kind of a blockbuster, but it's like
it was a summer movie.
It's not you don't want, when you make these blockbusters, you don't want people thinking when they go into them.
Yeah, no.
Maybe they tried. Maybe that's part of the cinema score. Maybe they tried to market it as like an action movie or something.
Yeah,
because it had Nicolas Cage, called Lord of War. What else do you expect?
Yeah. Then it turns out to be,
then you get a cynical thinking
very
movie, super critical of geopolitics and
I can see why some people didn't respond well to this.
Yeah.
But when I saw it, I was expecting it to be like a blockbuster, and then it turned out to be this kind of brilliant little film. So I was not expecting that at all. And I think that's why I liked it so much. It's like I was completely caught off guard with what it ended up being, in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
And then ratings, this is our 13th R-rated film, which is by far and away the most. So we have 6 PG-13s, 2 PGs, 13 Rs, and 6 unrated. Which leads us to the kill tracker.
All right, well, he killed a lot of people in this movie. So really only just the one kill, where he was assisted, where he had assistants kill him, Bilbo. So just the one kill, which brings us to a total of 72 over all the films. As you know, he survived, so 0 deaths. So we're still just 9 deaths, which is pretty crazy that he's survived most of these films that we watched. And then 0 resurrections on this one. So it's just still the 2, which be changing on the next one. Every time he flames on, I'm going to count it as a resurrection.
See, again, you can't, like we talked about this in Ghost Rider, you can't, he never dies.
He's not died. Yeah, he didn't die.
Yeah.
Good luck with the kills, though. Jesus.
I know, I'm dreading that one almost as much as Prisoners, because even having gone back on the screenshots, I still couldn't tell you how many people he killed in Prisoners, because there's like a lot of assumed deaths off camera, but and then he's like just killing massive crowds. But do you really know they're dead? Like
that one shot when he whips the chain around and kills like 30 guys, like you can't. It's like it's a mass of people. It's going to be so hard to try and figure out.
I'm just going to say 7-ish. Killed 7-ish people.
21.
It's like a complete circle of people around him. And it's just a CGI mess, so you can't really. It's hard to break.
I would say it's like 30 at least in that scene. He pretty much kills every one of the humans who come to that thing.
I'll better call Saul it and just take 8,000 screenshots. Count each head.
Where does this masterpiece fall? Let's rank this film on the Cageometer.
Most important question of the whole show. Vince, where does Lord of War from 2005, right? 2005.
Yeah.
Rate on your Cage-ometer.
For a movie, I gotta give it an 8. I really enjoyed this movie the first time I saw it, and I'm glad to see that it held up. Like we talked about before, what the conversation that's being had in the movie is still very relevant to this day. So I thought that was pretty nice to see that this movie's statement is just as powerful today as it was back in 2005 at the height of the GWOT, Global War on Terrorism. I really enjoyed the performances. I thought Ethan Hawke did a great job of playing that character, and Nick in the film, I'll get into him in a minute, it was great too. But just other than Jared Leto, I think everybody else did a good job. But I really enjoyed the story. Like, all jokes aside, you see this guy go and rise through the arms dealer world, and you think things are gonna go well for him because he's supposed to be the hero of the movie, and everything just goes to shit. But he still continues on, like he doesn't let any of that shit phase him. So I love that they don't have any redeeming qualities for this guy, from enlisting his brother to like harassing his soon-to-be wife by like stalking her, to not really being invested in his kid's life, to dealing all these arms, knowing that he's funding these wars that are going to be killing a massive amount of people, to getting his brother killed and all that stuff. Like, there's no redeeming quality, which I really like that they didn't try to make him into a good guy or make you really feel for him. I like that you leave the film viewing him as the bad guy and not liking him, but enjoying the story overall and just seeing how corrupt this world really could be when it comes to running guns. Nick, I'll give Nick a 7. I thought his performance for the character was pretty good. Like, this is a character that he wanted to play, and he kept it pretty contained for the most part. And then when the Cagey moments came out, it, for me, pulled me out of his performance. I enjoyed him, don't get me wrong. Like, you're the shit. That's like, that scene has stuck with me since I first watched this movie. But it's a cagey moment. So, but yeah, I think overall, I think the performance, the character that he created in his mind that he then put on the screen, I thought was very good. He's an arms dealer. He doesn't need to be this like over the top person. He's like very factual, very business, very dry. And I think he played that character very well. So for him, 7 out of 10.
All right, that leads us to Nigel. Where does Lord of War rate on your Cage-ometer?
This was my first time seeing this movie. I liked it. I'm kind of right there with Vince. I'll give it an 8 as well. I thought it was a really good movie. There were a couple of things that I didn't like about it. Like I mentioned before, I didn't like the narration too much. I'm okay with movies having narration, but it did feel like it relied a lot on like just telling you what was going on in the story rather than showing you a lot of the stuff that could happen. And I think that might be due to the fact that it's just trying to cover so much time. There's only so much that they can put on screen, and it helps fill in the blanks. But I think they relied on it a lot to give you kind of that inner monologue of the character rather than showing the character, doing these things or going through this stuff. Also, again, that twist at the end where he's actually been working with the U.S. the whole time, I did kind of feel like it kind of came out of nowhere, and it doesn't really sour the ending of it. It was just kind of unexpected, and it just didn't quite mesh with the rest of the story, I think. It was a nice twist. It just wasn't, I don't know, something feels off about it. I don't know what it is exactly, if it's that they didn't set it up properly. It's like you never get the fact that he's working, if he's been working with the U.S. this whole time, why is he so scared of Interpol? Like, why is he trying to get Interpol off his ass so many times? Like, why couldn't he have played this card earlier and basically been like, yeah, you're never going to catch me. You're never going to touch me because of this.
Sorry, I feel like, that plane, that when he calls the general from the plane when Interpol's on his ass, he's like, I can't help you right now.
Yeah.
I feel like that was like his whole thing about, just because they need me now doesn't mean that they're going to need me later. So I do think like if he would have been caught and it was very visible, they would have just been like, oh, cutting ties with you. Yeah. But I think the fact that he was so connected to all of these different arms dealers, that was kind of they need me now, but they're not going to need me later. But right now, they really, really need me because, when he flips through the newspaper, there's a bunch of, some sort of current event that he's eyeing that makes him think, okay, they're going to need me for this.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I didn't get the impression that he was actually working for the U.S. the entire time. I just think he worked in conjunction with the U.S. and
could be whatever
and
they
had
needed him.
Connections within the government that would help him at different times.
He's like I said, like working not for him, but with them, right? He's somebody that they go to. And I'm wondering because they kind of play the timeline a little vague towards the end. I'm wondering if he gets captured right after the events of 9/11. And so he's thinking they're going to need me to help fund the indigenous people. In this new war
that could be.
Off.
And maybe they didn't mention that because it's a little bit on the nose, like during the height of the Iraq War and everything. Like to bring that up would have soured it more, maybe people. And it could have also just been like they didn't want him spilling the beans, Like if he's going to go to trial now, he could let slip that I've been selling M16s for 15 years, all that stuff. But
or maybe they're trying to get him killed,
Yeah,
Epstein style.
Let him go so that he can be shot accidentally on purpose.
Right.
On purpose.
Yeah.
But it's a good movie overall. I'd give it an 8. I think it's a movie that should be watched. Give it a critical eye. It says things that not a lot of movies say, presents it in a way that not a lot of movies present it. So, solid film. I also didn't like Jared Leto that much, but I didn't have as much problem with him as you guys had. I think he fit the role pretty well as like an annoying younger brother who screws things up, and he's a good character for playing that. But for Nick Cage himself, I'll give him a 7 as well, mainly because I didn't get as much out of his performance emotionally as I would have liked to have gotten. Like I didn't feel as much of his emotion as I feel like we should have. And like when Vitaly gets killed, he cries about it, but it's like I didn't feel that he was that sad. It was, and maybe that was intentional. Maybe it was trying to show that he's kind of heartless in all things. But I just say across the whole movie, like he's smart and he's witty and he's a little charming in a lot of ways, but I just didn't feel like a performance that sold me emotionally, I guess, as what I'm trying to say. It's hard to articulate. I don't know. If you watch the movie, you might understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And then again, the narration is definitely really flat, and I don't know if that was intentional. Like I hate to use Spirit of Vengeance as a watermark, but I feel like his couple of narrated lines in Spirit of Vengeance just had a lot more character in them than his entire reading of lines in this movie. And I've seen him in other movies like Weatherman. He's got really good monologues in that too. Feels a lot more like a human behind it. This one, it just sounded like he was sitting in a sound booth reading lines because he came in after the fact and had to read the lines doing the storyline, or
like an audiobook.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of Harrison Ford in the Blade Runner cut, where he has to read the stupid monologue at the end to tie everything up, and it sounds like he really doesn't want to be there. So, that's kind of what the sense I got from it. And to have the narration be such a large part of this movie, it really stuck out and kind of grated with me. But just overall, its performance I thought was okay. It was good. It got the job done. I just didn't feel like it was anything spectacular, especially compared to some of the stuff we've seen him do. Good, not great. So 7 out of 10.
Yeah. On my Cageometer, I'm going to echo almost everything. I didn't plan this, but we all had the exact same ratings. So 8 on the movie. I think it's a really solid movie and a really great message to get across, and kind of like let you know that, like, everybody always thinks that the U.S. is the good guy, but like we do our fair share of awful things around the world. Mm-hmm. And you kind of have to wonder if a lot of the things that are happening around the world are our fault. It's like that, I forget what it's from, but that meme of the Nazis who are like sitting on the front line and they're like, are we the baddies?
Yeah.
This movie will definitely give you a different perspective on the United States and the way that we deal with conflicts around the world, and the things that we do to instigate things, and potentially even like funding both sides of a war just so that it'll destabilize that country so that we can come in and add something that's going to make us money, whip a little industry on a country. I feel like that's kind of what was going on with North and South Korea when we got involved with that. Like, well, this is an opportunity for us to whip some industry in here. And, I feel like the performances are all pretty great. As much as I don't like Jared Leto, I do. He was the character that he was supposed to be. When I watched this movie before, I had a tainted view on him because of his exploits off screen, and also some of the film performances that I've absolutely hated from him. I thought he did a great job. He's a drug addict and just kind of the loser of the family, and he played that role perfectly. Now that we know kind of more about him, was he even acting? I don't want to like rehash the same things because I feel like I have a very similar view of this film that you guys do. Over on Cage, I also gave him 7, and I see the criticism on some of the things. Like, yeah, he definitely didn't pull me in with the emotional weight that he normally does, and like Nigel said, like especially in that scene where his brother dies, like. Yes, he has to collect himself, and he knows that if he doesn't finish this deal, he's going to die himself. And obviously, he's a selfish dude. All he really cares about is himself. Throughout the entire movie, from start to finish, all he ever cares about is his own well-being and his own financial success and getting everything that he wants throughout. And even after his brother dies, he's kind of just like, well, we got to get this deal done. So he steadies himself and goes right back into it. But at no point where you're like feeling him being a super heartbroken person over what happened there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think of all the moments in the film, you could have had that there and give him some of that humanity there just so you can see that he is a human under all that, but he still does all this terrible shit.
Maybe like you said, that was the point, was like he's not really a human. He's such a flawed person at this point that he barely even reacts to his brother dying. This is 100% his fault that his brother just died. Even though his brother did something stupid, it was his fault pulling him out of, him telling him he didn't want to go on this arms deal, but still making him go, and it ultimately leading to his death. And But yeah, I mean, the narration was pretty flat. It didn't bother me as much as it bothered Nigel, but I kind of like the through line of that narration. And I think it's definitely because they had to explain so much stuff. Like, you're connecting events that happen over the course of 20 years. You kind of have to move things along, especially like some of those montages, like the one where he's like, I sold to this country, then I sold to this country, I sold to every country except for the Salvation Army, every army except for the Salvation Army, that whole thing. But I feel like the narration was kind of the glue of the film. And yeah, Nick Cage probably could have brought more to it, but I think it was kind of calculated that he did it so flat because he doesn't really get emotional about this stuff. He just doesn't care. It's kind of like,
it's business.
Then I did this, and then I went over there, and then all these people died.
I also feel like that's just how his interpretation of that character, like that person, like Eastern European, Russian descent, just they're known as hard people and not very emotional. So I guess I took it as like that's his interpretation of the character. So even though he does feel some emotion towards his brother, he just locks it up and goes back to just being almost robotic.
I guess that was part of it too. Like, I didn't really buy him. I was gonna say I didn't really buy him as a Ukrainian. Like, I know he's supposed to be a kid when he immigrated this time. I just didn't. It just felt like Nick Cage. They were just like,
but they
putting wallpaper over saying he's Ukrainian and calling
he
it
and
good.
Vitaly both remember Odessa in Ukraine. So they were old enough to remember, which means they had to have been like 6, 7, 8, something like that.
Yeah.
You would think some of the accent would still be there, but at no point is there any accent from him or Jared Leto. Like, nothing.
Yeah. Even when they slip into Ukrainian or Russian, I'm not sure which language they're speaking.
I think they're speaking Russian to each other.
Yeah, I think so.
Even then, there's like no real accent. I mean, obviously, they're just reciting memorized words that they're told to, but
just like the Japanese and Prisoners of the Ghostland that didn't have subtitles.
But us.
Whatever he says while he's holding his testicle up there. Whatever. But anyways, high marks though. I feel like this is one of our highest rated films, and it is a great movie, and definitely one I recommend that everybody go and check out. I feel like it's kind of a forgotten Cage performance. I feel like there's many of these films where it's like, you know, some of the movies get kept in the snowball of pop culture, but a lot of them have fallen by the wayside. Bringing Out the Dead, I feel like, was a good one that was left behind, and Lord of War, Matchstick Men, Joe. So definitely check it out.
Here it is, the moment you've all been waiting for. These are the cagiest moments of the film.
And we're doing nothing with our lives. I mean, this is shit. This is shit.
It's true.
Why? Why? Why?
Why what?
Why? Why?
I don't know. I don't know.
Why?
What?
Why are you so fucked up all the time?
I'm putting us down.
Okay, fuck! There, the highway, it's our only hope.
Are you fucking mad? A pothole will set us off.
You underestimate yourself, Alexei. You're the best. You're the shit, Alexei. You're the shit. You're the shit. You're the shit.
Bullets! Guns! Grenades! Hooray! Yeah! Come on! Get the whole place! Go ahead! Guns! Grenades! Hooray! Bullets! Guns!
That's it for this episode of One Cage at a Time. As always, be sure to drop us an email at onecagepodcast@gmail.com to let us know if we missed anything, or hit us up with suggestions to improve the show, comments, compliments, or your own fan theories on things. I would like those. I would love to have those come in, your own interpretations on movies and stuff, so that we can talk about them, and we'll give you credit, but we will steal your theory
Mojo.
and talk about it. But or simply to gush about the legend that is Nicolas Kim Coppola Cage. Next up, oh my God, we'll be watching a film we've all been dreading for over a year since we did the first one, the comically ridiculous and awful 2011 follow-up to 2007's Ghost Rider, Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance. In this steaming pile, Ghost Rider rides again to kill the franchise in Eastern Europe, where a priest played by the amazing, in other things, Idris Elba, tasked Johnny Blaze with tracking down and saving the soul of a boy who is, of course, also being hunted by Satan, who is inexplicably played by Kieran Hines instead of
Peter Fonda.
Peter Fonda in the last one. Nick Cage, Idris Elba, Kieran Hines, none of them could save this absolute train wreck of a film, which might rival Dark and Prisoners of the Ghostland as our least favorite films of this entire season.
I think Dead of Light was worse than Dark.
I think they kind of tied, right? They're sort of the same
Touche.
shittiness levels. I would say Prisoners of the Ghostland is my least favorite, but Spirit of Vengeance is close. It's a close second.
Yeah.
I enjoy Dying in the Light way more than Prisoners of the Ghostland.
Rewatching Ghost Rider,
Spirit of Vengeance.
It's the worst for me.
It is such a pile of shit.
Of the Ghostland.
What a fucking terrible
At
movie.
least Prisoners of the Ghostland was pretty.
Yeah,
fun to
there's
look
that.
at.
Yeah, that's true. And good music. Like, this movie's just terrible on all fronts. But make sure to check it out wherever fine films are sold or on your streaming service of choice. Till then, we'll say goodbye the way we do each and every episode with our Nicolas Cage quote of the film.
They say evil prevails when good men fail to act. What they ought to say is, evil prevails.
Thanks for listening to One Cage at a Time. Visit us online at onecageatatime.com or follow us on the social media platform of your choice for more Nicolas Cage goodness. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and if you really like the show, become a member of our Patreon where you can download unedited and ad-free episodes, as well as listen to our follow-up show, Back Into the Cage, where we re-examine each movie to discuss what we missed the first time around, answer listener questions, and wax poetic about the man, the myth, the legend that is Nicolas Cage.
Yuri Orlov. We're with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms.
Let me guess. This isn't about the alcohol or the tobacco.